Your wife's destiny is of the highest crimson rank. In the future, she is destined to become an empress who dominates through the ages. It is only because you transmigrated here, bound to an investment return system, that you can perceive the destiny of everyone you encounter. Little did you know that your empress wife is also a reincarnator, and she too has been bound to a peerless genius system. The only complication is that in the past, the empress wife was miserably bullied by you. As it happens, the Lin family and the Yi family were family friends for generations. Years ago, when beasts invaded the city, the entire Yu family unfortunately perished, leaving behind only their daughter, Ye Beihai. Your father took her into the Lin residence to ensure her safety. Yet born into wealth and doted upon by your entire family, you committed every manner of petty wickedness. From climbing trees to steal bird eggs to peeking at the young maids bathing, you frequently made a point of bullying her, all while secretly harboring feelings for her in your heart. That day, following your father's instructions, you and Ye Beihai set out to the Qingyun Sect to participate in the entrance examination. Seeing that it was growing late, you stopped to rest at an inn by the roadside. As the waiter served a table full of food, Ye Beihai walked straight to the guest room upstairs without a word. Regarding this, you shook your head helplessly. Everyone knows that someone whose entire family has sacrificed themselves is rarely simple. However, I am a soul who has lived 2 lifetimes. I am now 16 years old. Why do I not even have a single system? As soon as the thought finished, a voice suddenly echoed in your mind. Greetings, I am here. Who is speaking? Seeing you jump up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, the waiter nearby looked completely bewildered. Sir, what has happened to you? It is nothing. My ears must have been ringing. Just as you were questioning whether you were suffering from auditory hallucinations. The voice sounded in your heart once more. The host has sincerely acted, so this system has no choice but to manifest. You mean if I hadn't asked, you intended to stay hidden for your entire existence? Very well. What is the purpose of your system? This system is an investment system. The host may invest in any individual of their choosing. Investing in those with varying destinies will yield exponential returns. Should the recipient achieve a significant breakthrough, you shall also receive additional rewards. You may even be granted unexpected bonuses beyond your initial expectations. In that case, can I invest in myself? Ding, the Eye of Destiny has been activated for the host. Whether or not to invest depends on your decision. Essentially, that is a yes. Suddenly, a status window appeared before you, seemingly undergoing a more human-friendly transformation. Name Lin Qingfeng, age 16, root none, destiny gray, assessment, congenitally deficient. Assessment. Innate flaws have led to a fragile constitution and declining health. Apart from being somewhat handsome and having a good father, you possess nothing. Fortunately for you, you have encountered this system. Although this status report is brutally honest and lacks a shred of courtesy, one must admit that you truly have no value for investment. You have no appetite left to eat your meal, so you raise your head to observe your peers resting and dining in the hall. Name Heyang, age 16, root none. Realm, blood chi realm, destiny white, assessment, ordinary background. Humble as a dandelion, easily discarded. Background, born into poverty, he is currently working hard to pay off the debts he borrowed for his parents' funeral. After reviewing several individuals, most possess white-tier destinies, with the highest reaching only green. That is, until you look toward the shadowed corner. A blue light suddenly flickers before your eyes. Overall, there is no target particularly worthy of investment. The only person who seems promising, Wang Hu, harbors a grudge against you. Name Wang Hu, age 16, root, leopard back and tiger bones. Realm, blood chi realm, third pulse, destiny green, assessment, possesses a modicum of talent. If he practices with diligence, he may yet accomplish something. However, he is narrow-minded, vindictive, and arrogant, making him prone to falling into extremist paths. You then turn your gaze toward the room at the end of the second-floor corridor. What tier of destiny might she possess? With this thought, you carry a bowl of chicken soup up to the second floor. When Ye Beihai sees that you are the one standing at the door, her brows knit slightly, and she does not even bother to acknowledge you. As for you, you stand frozen in place, utterly stunned. For the information of the person before you has materialized in your vision. You stare at it for a long while, unable to regain your composure. Name Ye Beihai, age 16, innate constitution, Qingyun lunar sovereign body, cultivation level none. Destiny, red tier, born with the emperor bone, he commands the black ice as his life force. With his essence forged from autumn waters, his features possess a majestic aura, foretelling a destiny marked by countless trials. Yet he is fated to always turn misfortune into opportunity. Though his wings are not yet fully spread, when the winds of change arrive, he shall surely ascend to rule over the 9 heavens and the 10 lands. The phoenix shall teach all across the 6 realms and 8 directions. Due to recent circumstances, before the Qingyun lunar sovereign body awakens its meridians, it manifests externally as the terminally ill constitution. Before he can fully master the power of the Qingyun, he must endure the agony of extreme cold every single day. According to the judgment of the heavenly fate god's eye, heavenly destinies, from lowest to highest, are ranked as black, gray, white, green, blue, purple, and above the golden tier lies the red destiny. A red destiny that even those who are not yet great emperors cannot possess. Could it be that this wife of mine, who has not yet entered my home, is a being destined to rival the founding martial emperor? Regaining your composure, you feel a sense of existential doubt, yet you still hand over the bowl of chicken soup. Drink this chicken soup while it is still warm. Ye Beihai accepts the soup without a word and closes the door. You offer a bitter smile and have no choice but to turn and leave. Yet Ye Beihai looks at the bowl of soup and lets out a cold, soft laugh. A shameless person like you, pretending to be this kind? I shall not fall for your ruse. I suspect this is merely another childish attempt to mock me. Little did you know, I have been reborn precisely on this day. Suddenly a crisp, clear sound resonates in her ears. System binding successful. This system is the Peerless Prodigy system, dedicated to assisting the host in reaching the path of invincibility. However, Ye Beihai's expression remains indifferent, showing no significant reaction. Path of invincibility, you say? This Empress has already walked that path once before. In this life, I shall only grow stronger. Host, do not be hasty. If you overcome the trials, the system rewards will grant you the fortuitous opportunity to ascend to immortality. Hearing this, Ye Beihai's breath hitches for a brief moment. For immortal is a word that exists only in legends, a state that rules above all common folk, a true transcendence, a true state of immortality. Yet, ever since the great Xia dynasty established its capital, the path, even though she was once the Empress of the 9 heavens and 10 earths in her past life, she ultimately failed to ascend to immortality. Calming her spirit, she spoke indifferently. What exactly do you mean by this challenge you speak of? This system compiles a ranking of the most talented prodigies of the same generation within a designated region. Once the ranking is announced, rewards will be distributed based on the host's position. Immediately thereafter, a multitude of rules regarding the challenge appeared within Ye Beihai's mind. Despite this, Ye Beihai remained filled with confidence. After all, in her past life she was the very embodiment of a peerless genius, never having tasted the humiliation of being trampled upon by others. At this moment, the system issued a notification asking whether to activate the punishment mechanism, noting that once activated, the rewards would be significantly more bountiful, but it would require enforcing penalties upon the defeated party. Those at the top of the rankings would practically beg for such an opportunity. This was not arrogance on her part, for in her previous life she had stood at the pinnacle, and no one had ever managed to best her. Now that she has been reborn and can maximize her rewards, why would she refuse? On the other side, as you return to your chambers, the system surfaced to confirm that the investment was a success, transforming a bowl of mountain ginseng chicken soup into a reward of 1 Heaven Spirit Replenishment Pill. The Heaven Spirit Replenishment Pill, a 6-cloud grade elixir, was a supreme treasure capable of mending innate flaws and deficiencies. Shortly after, you saw a crimson pill manifest upon the table. You picked up the pill and tossed it into your mouth. Moments later, you felt an awe-inspiring surge of power, feeling an urge to return home and settle the score with the old man. A 6-cloud grade elixir, it was truly worthy of its reputation, and this was merely a return on an investment of a single bowl of chicken soup. This return on investment was nothing short of extravagant, though you suspected the quality depended heavily on the subject of the investment. On the morning of the second day, seeing Ye Beihai, with only a bowl of white porridge before her, you pushed a plate of eggs toward her, saying, "Is this all you are having for breakfast? You need more nutrition. Eat these eggs." Watching Ye Beihai coldly pick up an egg, you immediately lowered your face to apologize. "Regarding the past, please accept my apologies. I do not expect to erase our history with mere words, but if there is anger in your heart, that is only fair." Hearing this, you were momentarily stunned. Ye Beihai's tone was less one of forgiveness and more of indifference, as if your past provocations were not even worth her concern. You gave a slight nod and said nothing more. It seemed you had simply read too many novels and let your imagination run wild. Such a reaction from Ye Beihai was exactly in line with the assessment provided by the Heaven's Fate Divine Eye. Those who remain indifferent to glory and humiliation often travel the furthest. In truth, your assessment is not wrong. Within the distant depths of her memories, your talent was mediocre, barely sufficient to gain entry into the Qingyun Sect. You wasted a year in the outer sect before being expelled. Yet at that time she had already become the most radiant prodigy of your generation. Although she has been reborn, she perceives that you seem to have changed slightly. However, it matters little to her, for she is certain that your name would not even appear on the rankings of the Eastern Wasteland. Perhaps you do not even qualify as a mere passerby in her life, and she has never been one to distract herself with inconsequential people. Just as the two of you were lost in your own thoughts, your system notification emerged, granting you a 1,000 tael banknote issued by the Han Thong Bank. It is a currency accepted and circulated throughout all major merchant houses. If only she would eat a little more, wouldn't that allow me to consume an entire fortune? I must prepare a late-night snack for her this evening. 2 days later, you arrived at Xiang City, situated at the foot of the Qingyun Sect. Although you looked at everything with the novelty of a bumpkin, arriving in the capital, your purse had grown significantly heavier over the past 2 days. Because Ye Beihai's 3 meals a day had helped you accumulate tens of thousands of taels in banknotes, and even thousands in gold. Yet upon entering the city where every inch of land is worth gold, you realized that you were not as wealthy or noble as you had imagined. Especially when a single room at the inn cost 200 taels, making you feel like a truly impoverished soul. After all, the best room in your small town cost a mere 50 taels. However, the more awkward situation was that there was only one guest room remaining, and it was named Qing Mei. While you were still hesitating, Ye Beihai had already stepped into the room. "Very well, it turns out I was the narrow-minded one." As you followed her into the room, you suddenly remembered something. "That's right, why don't we visit a pharmacy to have her condition examined?" After all, Yi Beihai's Taiyan Moon sovereign physique suffers from the agony of extreme cold every day before the meridians are opened. Though you have yet to find a solution, visiting a pharmacy in such a large city might yield some insights. This time Ye Beihai did not refuse. Very well, let us go and see. Before long, you arrived at a pharmacy. The old man at the pharmacy immediately perceived that Ye Beihai harbored a tyrannical, extreme yin energy within her. However, there was no effective solution for the time being, so the only option was to use pure yang pills to suppress it. Without a second thought, you purchased 20 pills for her. This act caused a slight tremor in Ye Beihai's heart. Afterward, you took her for an aimless stroll through the streets. After all, this was your first time visiting the city of prosperity. And as night fell, you arrived at the snack district of Ziyang Prefecture, where you bought 2 skewers of the local specialty, grilled willow leaf fish. One bite delivered a savory, succulent flavor without a hint of fishiness, and even the bones were tender enough to crunch. Seeing Ye Beihai staring at you as you ate, you offered her a skewer, asking if she wanted to try. There is no need. Why did you purchase those pure yang pills for me? Back when you were with me, you suffered quite a few grievances. Consider this a form of compensation. After all, it wasn't a significant expense. And besides, once I enter the Qingyun Sect, I will have even greater wealth. Where does this fellow find such confidence? I recall that in my past life he was quite mediocre. How could he possibly shine so brilliantly in the future? Contemplating this, she looked towards you once more. Suddenly, the night breeze stirred the lanterns, causing your enthusiastic expression to flicker between light and shadow. Witnessing this scene, Ye Beihai was stirred by long-buried memories, recalling her younger self, standing amidst a crowd of spectators watching her like a play, kneeling before an elder of the Qingyun Sect, and swearing an oath that she would successfully open her meridians within half a year. Back then, where did I ever find such confidence? Snapping out of her memories, she nodded solemnly. I accept this favor. As soon as the words left her lips, the system's notification rang out. The investment of 12 3-pattern pure yang pills was successful. Your words had fundamentally shifted the target's state of mind. You had successfully altered the life trajectory of the investment target. The feedback reward would be subject to a critical multiplier. Congratulations to the host for receiving a special reward. You were left slightly bewildered, thinking to yourself that you had. The daughter of destiny is truly worthy of her title. To have gained such enlightenment, it is clear that a formidable existence is about to emerge. Reflecting on this, you offer her a taste, saying, "Try a bite. It is quite fragrant," but she declines to eat. Very well, the small fish flies away, and upon returning to your guest room, you cannot help but drift into deep contemplation. Although you have been acquainted for many years, this is the first time you have shared a room together. As the large bed curtains are lowered by a pair of soft hands, concealing her alluring figure from view, you finally withdraw your gaze and lie down on the soft couch to examine the rewards you have just received. Xuantin Immortal Body, an immortal frame tempered by the turbulent mortal realm concealing infinite mysteries. Do you wish to claim this origin? Upon claiming it, your mind feels as though a bolt of lightning has torn through the dark clouds, crashing into chaos with a thunderous roar, leaving you unable to even perceive your own existence, after which you lose consciousness and drift into a deep slumber. Ye Beihai meanwhile consumes a pure yang pill and settles into a meditative posture. The next morning, you open your eyes, revealing a gaze as profound as if it held the entire starry sky, yet as calm and clear as a secluded mountain stream. Outwardly, you remain the same, but merely by standing there, you emanate an aura that seems to merge perfectly with nature. After sensing your changes, you tap on the attribute panel. Name Lin Xingfeng, age 16, root bone, Xuantin Immortal Body, realm none. Destiny, unknown assessment, possessor of an immortal body with a chaotic destiny, a future that is impossible to foretell. Your recent interactions with your childhood sweetheart have eased. At the very least, it is better than being strangers. Staring at the information on the attribute panel, your eyes widen. Why has my destiny changed to unknown? Forget it. Anything produced by the system is undoubtedly supreme. I shall simply unlock its secrets gradually in the future. You glance at Ye Beihai, who has yet to awaken, and having nothing to do, you decide to head into the streets to try your luck, hoping to encounter a suitable candidate for investment. 2 days pass in the blink of an eye. Ye Beihai remains within the room without stepping out. And during these 2 days, you encounter various potential investment targets. Most are quite unremarkable, with blue-tier potential being exceptionally rare, and the encounters themselves are bizarre. Some are scholars failing their exams who seek a wealthy patroness, while others have too much wealth and find life tedious, desiring to experience the struggles of poverty. There was even a burly, muscular man who harbored a secret desire to dress in women's clothing. Even if you wished to invest in such things, it was beyond your ability to assist. Naturally, ordinary people still made up the vast majority. Thanks to this, you received a great deal of feedback. Yet the items that were actually useful for martial arts cultivation were extremely scarce. The majority consisted of bizarre and peculiar curiosities. There were paintings, calligraphy, toys, cooking ingredients, and beauty products. There was even an undergarment belonging to an innocent maiden. This method of casting a wide net yielded far too little, so you summarized your experience. Quality is far more important than quantity. From now on, unless it is a special case, you will no longer actively invest in gray or white tier items. On the morning of the 3rd day, Ye Beihai finally succeeded in opening her meridians. This meant that her suppressed talent had finally seen the light of day once more. Her face, usually as cold as ice, rarely betrayed a faint smile. Of course, this would not have been possible without the pure yang pill you gifted her. When you brought 2 steamed buns and a bowl of white porridge before her, she took the bowl and smiled softly, saying, "Thank you." Your movements froze for a moment, your eyes widening in shock. You never expected this icy beauty to actually know how to express gratitude. I did not hear that clearly. What did you just say? Ye Beihai did not utter another word and began to consume the porridge. After finishing breakfast, the 2 of you set off toward the Qingyun Sect. Today was the day the Qingyun Sect opened its mountain gates to recruit disciples. However, the carriage could not move any further 10 miles away from the sect, as the crowds were so dense they clogged the main thoroughfare. You were forced to continue on foot, but the scene that unfolded left you utterly astonished. You were surrounded by youths, giving you the sensation of a school courtyard during morning exercises. About half an incense stick later, you finally arrived before the mountain gate. There were numerous Qingyun Sect disciples dressed in garments of various colors. Before these disciples sat 7 deacons. As the 3 morning bells tolled, a short, stout elder began to announce the commencement of the examination. Root bone is the first gateway to the path of martial arts. If one's root bone is too poor, the journey of martial cultivation will be fraught with hardship. Even if one exerts 10,000 times the effort, it will be like tossing a grain of salt into the sea. Those with poor cultivation roots should not waste their time. You may leave on your own accord. However, not a single person moved to leave. After all, those who have come here are either certain of their own potential or are the type who will not shed tears until they see the coffin. The short, stout elder nodded upon seeing this. In that case, line up one by one for the bone testing. As soon as his words fell, countless young men and women instinctively formed a line for the examination. The deacons seemed to have mastered a special technique. By simply placing a hand on the shoulder of the examinee, they could roughly discern the other's cultivation potential. The Qingyun Sect classifies cultivation roots into 4 tiers: Jia, Yi, Bing, and Ding. One only needs to reach the Bing tier to be qualified to enter the mountain gate. There are actually many factors that determine talent, and cultivation roots are merely one of them. Even so, only 1 or 2 in every 10 people achieve the Bing tier or higher. This first trial alone is likely to eliminate 80% of the applicants. You stood in the line, your heavenly fate godly eye remaining active, allowing you to discern exactly who would be chosen. At this moment, the old woman ahead beckoned to Ye Beihai. "Little girl, it is your turn." As Ye Beihai stepped out from the crowd, she immediately drew countless gazes, simply because she was too beautiful. She stood there, cold and ethereal. It was as if all things around her had fallen into silence, making it impossible for anyone to ignore her presence. You rubbed your chin in contemplation. Based on your experience reading novels, unless something unexpected happens, there are 2 possibilities. Either she is a monstrous genius, or she is a complete waste. Those who carry great destiny cannot possibly remain hidden among the masses. You were proven right immediately. The old woman's brows furrowed tightly, and her robes began to flutter, despite the lack of wind. As it appeared, she was preparing to use her internal energy to test Ye Beihai's roots. The commotion drew the attention of everyone nearby, and even the other deacons could not help but be curious. For even the testing of a Jia tier talent would not typically warrant such a display. Your wife is truly worthy of being a reborn empress. The cultivation roots she revealed were of the peak Jia tier, while even Murong Xiao, known as the Qilin child of the Ziyang prefecture, was merely at the lowest Jia tier. Yet Murong Xiao is still regarded as the greatest genius of the past decade. From this, it is clear that your wife is a genius among geniuses. Even while under the weight of so many scrutinizing eyes, Ye Beihai maintained, in truth, her potential was even greater than that. The classification of grade A was only used because the Qingyun Sect's highest rank is grade A. Soon enough, a number of elders began to argue fiercely as they scrambled to recruit Ye Beihai. It was only when the sectmaster finally spoke that silence was restored among them. Then, at last, it was your turn. However, the inspection revealed that your innate talent was merely at the grade C entry level. In reality, this result was entirely within your expectations. Since you transmigrated to this world, you have been nothing more than a talentless, cultivation-deficient cripple. Even this meager aptitude was only achieved thanks to consuming a Luin elixir. Yet you remained remarkably lighthearted, nudging Ye Beihai, who stood beside you, with your shoulder. With 3 parts decided by heaven and 7 parts relying on effort, many people cannot even cross the gates of this mountain. I already feel quite fortunate. In truth, there was one thing you left unsaid. Why be in such a panic? This young master possesses a system. Observing your nonchalant demeanor, which did seem feigned, Ye Beihai nodded in satisfaction. Very well. This temperament is worth this emperor's assistance, though how far he can go will depend entirely on his own destiny. At this very moment, Wang Hu achieved a grade B mid-tier rating. Excluding the 2 monstrous talents of grade A, Wang Hu possessed the best natural endowment present. To call him 1 in 10,000 would not be an exaggeration. He basked in the sycophancy and flattery of the surrounding crowd. Wang Hu glanced at you with provocation. You could only offer a bitter smile in your heart. What are you looking at? Do you believe that I could end your life with a single glare? While you were lost in thought, Wang Hu's cousin who had joined the sect long ago, approached him alongside a burly middle-aged man. Master, this is my cousin Wang Hu. Excellent. He truly has the frame of a tiger and the back of a leopard. This cousin of yours is more suited to practicing my tiger leopard thundering hand technique than you are. As the words fell, the short, stout elder frowned. Fudo, wait until he enters the inner sect before you take him as a disciple. That would not be too late. Wang Hu was immediately overjoyed and hurriedly performed a formal salute. Greetings, master, but first I must pass the heaven-ascending stone stairs. After Fudo departed, Wang Hu held his head even higher, looking as though he had the word arrogance carved onto his forehead. He walked directly up to Ye Beihai and with great confidence clasped his hands. Miss Yi, from here on we shall be fellow sect members. And in return he received only a cold, indifferent dismissal from Ye Beihai. Humiliated on the spot, Wang Hu's face turned deep crimson. He could only vent his frustrations upon you. Lin Qingfeng, we are from the same village. Once Miss Yi and I achieve greatness, we will not forget you, he said, only to be met with your continued indifference. Furthermore, you noticed that his fate, originally blue, was slowly shifting into black. Even his assessment had changed to reflect arrogance and stubbornness. He was being used as a test subject by the inner sect deacon without even realizing it. His future had become bleak and shrouded in darkness. Although Wang Hu was on the verge of exploding with rage, he had no choice but to swallow his pride, leaving behind only a feeble threat. Lin Qingfeng, just you wait. Not long after the second round of examinations, the heaven-ascending stone stairs commenced, marking the final stage of the trial. Those who ascend 10 steps may enter the outer sect. Those who ascend 50 steps may enter the inner sect. Those who ascend 80 levels become direct disciples. Whoever reaches the summit becomes the personal disciple of the Qingyun Sect leader. The time limit was 1 incense stick. As the trial began, Wang Hu stepped onto the stone stairs with an arrogant stride. Upon reaching the 50th step, he felt as if Mount Tai were crushing down upon him. Yet he did not abandon his efforts. He could only crawl upward at a turtle's pace. Following this, others began to follow suit one after another. Ye Beihai, however, ascended as if walking on flat ground. The elevation seemed to have no effect upon her whatsoever. She quickly left the others far behind. The crowd could no longer remain calm. This was simply too extravagant. Is this young woman even human? Did she come here just to shatter the record for reaching the summit? Seeing that everyone else had already begun, you finally took your first step. A thought flickered in your mind. Are these not just ordinary stone stairs? Watch me. A smirk tugged at the corner of your mouth as you leaped 3 steps at once, while the elders on the high platform began to discuss Ye Beihai. Elder Kong Yu, known as the Death Demon, once again proposed taking Ye Beihai under her tutelage, but the sect leader refused without hesitation. Everyone knew that this old woman was only lucid for 3 hours a day. Meanwhile, the sect leader hesitated, fingering the letter hidden in his sleeve. Previously, your father had written to the sect leader. He stated that Ye Beihai was your fiancée. He requested that the sect leader arrange for the two of you to cultivate together. However, your measured talent was truly insufficient to stand beside Ye Beihai. Just as he was deep in thought, a clear, sharp phoenix cry suddenly echoed through the heavens. Ye Beihai was seen standing at the end of the heaven-ascending stone stairs. Countless birds from all 4 directions flew toward her, circling her obediently. Upon closer inspection, a noble and mysterious moon-white spiritual bird seemed to manifest behind her. Witnessing this, Sect Master Shangguan Wenshang of the Qingyun Sect abruptly rose to his feet in shock. This young woman had summoned the 100 birds gathering, manifesting the phoenix of the Taiyan realm. At this moment, Wang Hu was only 40 steps from the summit. Just as he prepared to charge forward, you appeared by his side unnoticed. Deeply resentful, Wang Hu raised his hand, intending to shove you downward. Without a word, you unleashed a swift, sweeping kick. Wang Hu let out a wretched scream. Unable to withstand the overwhelming gravity, he tumbled straight down the stairs. The commotion quickly drew the attention of many onlookers. No one expected you to have climbed to the 80th level. Even more astonishing was your composed demeanor, which appeared even more remarkable than that of Ye Beihai. The short, stout elder could not help but turn his gaze toward the elderly woman who had previously assessed your bones. Deacon Han, surely you did not misjudge this boy's aptitude? Perhaps my age has caught up with me, my eyes are dim, and I may have been mistaken. As these words were spoken, the high-ranking officials fell into a profound silence. They could not bring themselves to believe that Deacon Han would have misjudged such a talent. As you ascended to the summit, Ye Beihai's eyes flickered with intrigue. You smiled at her, remarking that it was quite a coincidence for her to be here. No sooner had you finished speaking than a black crow landed upon your head. Witnessing this, the high-ranking officials on the viewing platform widened their eyes in astonishment. Their cultivation levels were at the very least in the Guanshan realm, allowing them to perceive things hidden from the naked eye. Thus, in their vision, a silhouette stood behind you, turning its back to all sentient beings. The figure seemed ordinary, yet possessed a profound depth. At one moment it resembled a fisherman upon a river, at another a scholar reading by a lamp, or perhaps a general stepping into the Golden Hall. It seemed that with the slightest lapse in concentration, the silhouette would shift, only to return to its original form once they regained their focus. Yet it remained you, the youth in flowing robes. This little fellow was reflecting his very own essence, which was truly unfathomable. The elders exchanged glances, seeing the absurdity mirrored in each other's eyes. Never had they imagined such a thing could occur. However, one thing was beyond doubt. A youth as seemingly ordinary as you was, in fact, extraordinary. After a brief deliberation, the sect master decided to accept As for you, despite being a true disciple, you merely reflected yourself as a mortal, while Ye Beihai projected an imperial bird resembling a dark moon. In comparison, it is obvious that your wife possesses far greater potential. After Ye Beihai was taken away by the sect master, only you, Lin Jiang, and Murong Xiao remained, all possessing the talent of a true disciple. Lin Jiang was quickly accepted by an elder, while Murong Xiao caused 3 elders to fiercely contend for him, ultimately entering under the tutelage of Elder Han He. While the elders fought over those two, you took the opportunity to observe the attribute panels of these 2 geniuses. Name: Lin Jiang, age 16, bone structure, mantis strike, green snake, lizard, calamity sustaining shoulder, realm, blood and chi realm, 4th meridian, destiny, blue. Evaluation: fairly good talent, but overly eager for quick success and benefits. Being too rigid makes him prone to breaking, yet it is not impossible for him to advance further. Recent status: having just become a true disciple of the Qingyun Sect, he desires a weapon of sharp grade or higher. Name: Murong Xiao, age 16, bone structure, Mingyu physique, realm, blood and chi realm, 5th meridian, destiny, blue. Evaluation: father is human, mother is a transformed flood dragon, possesses a kind nature but is deeply influenced by her bloodline. If he can combine the advantages of both, his future will be boundless. If he inherits their flaws, he will become a scourge upon the land. Recently, Zhang Qi has been suppressing his instincts, hoping to calm the bloodthirsty urges deeply embedded within his bones. In particular, after viewing Murong Xiao's information, you could not help but gasp. Did he not possess the bloodline of an auspicious beast? Why is his father human while his mother is a flood dragon? It seems Murong Xiao's father was truly a formidable man. Even Xu Xian would have to serve him tea. You quietly noted down the residences of the two. Only then did you realize that no one had chosen you yet. Suddenly, a lazy voice shattered the silence. Are you willing to enter under my tutelage? This disciple is willing. Greetings, master. As soon as these words were spoken, the other elders looked at you with sympathy. Sensing something amiss, you utilized the divine eye of destiny to look at Kang Wu. Name: Kang Wu, age 27, bone structures, southern nether flame, lotus physique realm, internal landscape, 7th heavenly layer, destiny, purple. Evaluation: the youngest elder of the Qingyun Sect. You may question her character, but never doubt her strength, as she possesses an extraordinary background. Recent status: out of money for wine, currently scheming how to swindle some silver from the elders of the other peaks. Is she highly interested in the sect master's true disciple Ye Beihai? Impressive. No wonder those old men had such strange looks in their eyes. No matter how one looks at it, Kang Wu does not seem like a good master. It turns out I was not accepted because of my extraordinary potential, but rather because she took an interest in my wife. Regardless, this is the first time I have encountered a purple tier opportunity. Even if I learn nothing, this investment will eventually yield returns. At first you thought having a female master would be quite enjoyable. Little did you know this master was a massive pitfall. When the inner sect senior brother explained the monthly stipend, aside from you receiving a long scroll of debts, everyone else was showered with heaven-sent treasures. You were left stunned, realizing that while others received benefits, it was your turn to shoulder the debt. Are you even a true direct disciple at all? As for your young wife, Ye Beihai, she fared much better. The sect master ordered that she be allowed to choose a private villa for her residence. One must understand that a private villa is a privilege reserved for deacons, and not just any ordinary deacon, but those who have made significant contributions to the sect. Beyond providing an excellent environment for cultivation, it is a symbol of status. At that moment, Ye Beihai spoke 3 words without hesitation: Chushui Pavilion. Hearing this, you suddenly realized and asked, Senior brother, where shall I stay? On the Kunyu Peak of Elder Shang Wu, he replied. There likely isn't any room for you there. You should build yourself a thatched hut as soon as possible. You may request materials from the Inner Affairs Hall. These words left you frozen in place. Suddenly Ye Beihai spoke softly, You may stay with me. Hearing this, you trembled and turned your head in shock. Is this still the same block of ice you once knew? Elder Qian Bufan, who had been watching the spectacle all along, finally spoke up. The scenery of Chushui Pavilion is magnificent. It would be wonderful for you two to live as a pair of immortal lovers. Elder Chan, you are overthinking this. Are they not a couple? However, he clearly remembered the sect master discussing this very matter. Moreover, a young lady has personally invited a man to live under her roof. And in this day and age, what sort of ordinary relationship involves living in the same room? While Elder Chan was lost in thought, Ye Beihai's voice echoed beside him. We are, in fact, not. Yes, Elder Chan, you have misunderstood. Perhaps I am getting old and talking nonsense. Forgive me. Yet you noticed that the old man seemed somewhat disappointed. You offered a bitter smile and withdrew your gaze from Ye Beihai. Is this block of ice beautiful? To describe her as devastatingly beautiful would not be an exaggeration, yet she is far too cold in both her personality and her demeanor. Thinking of this, you could not help but sigh. In your original memories, she did not possess this temperament. It was only after the family tragedy that they became this way. If you were in their position, you would not be able to maintain such optimism and composure. As for Ye Beihai, in her past life, countless paragons of talent and nobility pursued her, if she had not severed her 7 emotions and 6 desires, and focused entirely on defying the current within the river of martial arts, she could never have reached the pinnacle. In this life, she remained steadfast in her Tao heart. Upon arriving at Chushui Pavilion, she is quite satisfied with the environment here. Though she feels a sense of irony, after all, it was Ye Beihai who once stayed at the Lin estate, And now the roles have reversed, finding you living under another's roof. Upon entering, Ye Beihai immediately ordered you to clean the house and prepare a barrel of bathwater for her. Her demeanor was as if she had been living here for a long time, adapting so quickly that the mistress of Chushui Pavilion transformed into a diligent little nanny. After cleaning, you began to boil the water. As the steaming hot water filled the red wooden tub, the system notification arrived. Congratulations to the host for successfully investing in a barrel of bathwater, assisting the investment target in cleansing her body. You have received a return on investment, 1 gold ingot. After a long silence, you called out into the courtyard. A single barrel of bathwater surely isn't enough, is it? You boiled more for her, and by the next morning, you had already prepared breakfast for your wife. Not long after she finished eating, the sect master's carriage arrived to collect Ye Beihai in grand style. Seeing this, you sighed helplessly. Look at that. This is the treatment a true successor receives, while I fear I must walk up the mountain on foot. No sooner had you finished speaking than Ye Beihai lifted the carriage curtain. Before heading to Qingyun Peak, Qingfeng, could you prepare a few jars of fine wine? Leaving those words behind, the carriage vanished into a cloud of dust. 1 hour later, you carried 2 jars of wine to the summit of Qingyun Peak, and as you gazed at the dilapidated wooden hut before you, the corners of your mouth twitched. If you did not know this was within the Qingyun Sect, you would have suspected that this place had just... You called out for your master twice, but received no reply. Pushing open the wooden door, you saw Shang Wu curled up on the bed under a blanket. Her sleeping posture was huddled, and a faint trail of drool was visible at the corner of her mouth. Master, your disciple has arrived. Shang Wu grunted like a lazy pig and turned over to continue her slumber. You had no choice but to lean close to her ear and whisper, Master, the head elder is here to collect the debt. In an instant, Shang Wu sprang up like a coiled spring, though her expression turned suspicious when she saw you. Who are you? I am your disciple, Lin Qingfeng. A disciple? I remember now. So, what business do you have with me? Should you not be teaching me something, Master? That sounds reasonable. I intended to teach you something yesterday, but without wine, my memory is not quite what it used to be. Before the words had even faded, you uncorked a jar of wine. Shang Wu's nose twitched immediately. Is this Lu Yanyang? This wine is a specialty from Zizhuang Shilipo, brewed for 5 years. Only when the wine takes on an amber hue can it be considered a masterpiece. A 10-year vintage is even harder to come by. Where did you find this? Saying this, she snatched the jar from your hands and drank it dry. This sight was so pathetic that you could hardly bear to look at her. Only after satisfying her craving did Shang Wu wipe her mouth. I remember now. That old ghost Han, he dared to claim that I do not know how to teach my disciple. How could I endure such an insult? He merely took in a boy named Marong Xiao and dares to boast before me? Bah! Thus, I made a wager with him. Master, what did you wager with him? The 9 Peaks martial competition is approaching. If the disciples of Qingyun Peak achieve a higher ranking, he must clear my debts at the Internal Affairs Hall. And, if you lose? Losing? Do you have so little faith in your master? As she spoke, she produced a small booklet. Take this. It is my unique cultivation manual. I shall teach you the basics within the day. You took the booklet and read the title of the technique clearly. The Heart of Fire Lotus Technique. The name itself suggests a formidable power. You intended to seek her guidance on the parts you did not understand after finishing the text, but as you looked up, you realized she had already drifted off to sleep. Furthermore, the 2 jars of wine you had brought were completely drained. Honestly, elder sister, could you be any less reliable? Just as you were caught between laughter and frustration, the system notification resonated in your mind. Investment successful. 1 jar of 10-year-aged Lu Yichen Long wine. Reward, 10 years of enlightenment in martial arts. This decade of martial arts enlightenment can be applied to any technique, granting the host 10 years of mastery in that specific skill. One must understand that martial arts realms are divided into 6 levels: entry, familiar, minor achievement, major achievement, perfection, and the transcendent realm. Even among common martial arts found in the Zhonghu, those who reach the level of perfection are incredibly rare, let alone the transcendent realm. Take your father, Lin Dailong, for instance. He has practiced the Gale Palm technique for nearly 20 years and has only just reached the major achievement stage. Of course, this is heavily influenced by one's personal aptitude. While your own talent cannot be considered heaven-defying, it is, at the very least, quite sharp. Without hesitation, you stepped out of the room, sat upon the ground, and poured the entire 10 years of enlightenment into the Heart of Fire Lotus technique. In an instant, countless images flooded your mind. It felt as if you had truly devoted yourself to the study of the Heart of Fire Lotus technique for an entire decade, bringing it to the stage of minor achievement. That sudden, profound epiphany granted you a sensation so exquisite it felt as if you were soaring above the 9 heavens. Even the surrounding vegetation began to sway, despite the complete absence of wind. At that very moment, Shang Yu, currently lost in drunken stupor, abruptly opened her eyes. Heaven and man as one? What manner of heaven-defying luck has this person stumbled upon? Simultaneously, within the training hall of the Qingyun Peak Master, your young wife left the sect elders stunned to the point of disbelief. Your cold, aloof wife proved to be truly formidable, achieving the entry stage in the high-level bone-seeking origin technique in a mere heartbeat. Even Elder Han He, a genius in his own right, had required an entire month to achieve the same feat. More preposterous still, he discovered that Ye Beihai had already opened one of her meridians. Han, his eyes widened in shock. At this rate, Won't this last be able to clear all 13 meridians in just a few days? In truth, that assessment was only half correct. Ye Beihai did not intend to stop at merely 12 meridians. She aimed to open 24, creating a great circulation within her own body. Upon doing so, she would become invincible among those of the same rank once she reached the internal breath realm. Facing a prodigy among prodigies, the three elders, Han Ya and Shan Bufan, could not help but feel a sense of profound inadequacy. Originally, because the sect master was burdened with many affairs, he had specifically tasked these three with guiding Ye Beihai. It appeared now that their services were no longer required. Especially as they watched Ye Beihai cultivate, they couldn't help but notice countless flaws in their own techniques. At that exact moment, Tijing suddenly thought of you, and a jolt of alarm struck his heart. This won't do. I must go and check on that boy at once, lest that madwoman ruin everything. However, when he arrived at Kunyu Peak, he sensed someone channeling the essence of heaven and earth to cultivate. This channeling of the essence of heaven and earth is known as the unity of heaven and man. This state is the pinnacle that all martial practitioners long to achieve. He initially assumed it was Shang Yu cultivating, but when he saw that the one responsible was you, he was struck dumb with shock. For not only had you mastered the Fireheart Lotus technique without any guidance, but you had also entered the state of the unity of heaven and man, and had even successfully opened a main meridian. Just then, you slowly opened your eyes, and seeing the old man Tijing standing before you, you prepared to speak, but were interrupted. You, do not lose your focus by speaking, he commanded. The unity of heaven and man is a profound opportunity that cannot be sought by force. Even though you did not fully grasp what the unity of heaven and man entailed, you heeded his words and continued to close your eyes to cultivate. Meanwhile, Tijing kicked the door open and saw Shang Yu still sound asleep, veins pulsing on his forehead in frustration. You drunken woman, how are you still able to sleep? Shang Yu was startled awake, her expression filled with annoyance. Old Tai, you had better have a good reason for this. Your disciple is currently in the state of the unity of heaven and man outside. How are you still sleeping? Shang Yu tilted her head, assuming the old man was spouting nonsense. But as she stepped outside and caught sight of the scene, she instantly froze, and at that same moment, a system notification echoed in your mind. Congratulations to the host for demonstrating the unity of heaven and man, triggering an epiphany in Tijing. Investment reward, 3 gourds of Icefire wine. Investment reward, 20 years of martial insight. After consuming the Icefire wine, the dual sensation of ice and fire will temper your physical form. It is truly a sacred item for increasing the strength of one's body. Receiving such a reward, your heart soared. You never expected that others watching you cultivate could also count as an investment. This reward was essentially handed to you for free. 2 hours later, you ceased your cultivation. Tijing reluctantly retracted his aura, his face filled with profound admiration. Not bad at all, young man. Elder Tai, you are too kind. My father speaks of you often at home. After all, at their age, their bottlenecks have become deeply rooted. Observing the union of heaven and man is of great benefit to him as well. Furthermore, your father, Lin Dailong, was once his disciple. Upon hearing you mention his father, Tijing stroked his long beard and sighed. That child Dailong is truly a pity. Had he not met with that accident, he would already be an inner sect deacon by now. Everyone has their own destiny. My father says that he only kept his life because Elder Tai intervened. If my father hadn't been injured on his way home and encountered my mother, I would not exist today. One loses in one aspect only to gain in another. That is the way of things. Dailong is truly blessed to have raised such a fine son. As soon as those words were spoken, Shang Yu suddenly wrapped her arms around your neck to declare her claim. Hey, this is my disciple. Don't you even think about poaching him, you old man. Watching Shang Yu make a scene, he could only kindly remind you that if you wish to learn martial techniques, you could go to the martial arts hall to take a look. Unexpectedly, your nominal master simply went along with it. That is true. Learning a few elementary techniques at the martial arts hall is sufficient. Hearing this, you could not help but roll your eyes. Sister Yu, I think you are just too lazy to teach me. However, now that I have the mental cultivation method, I truly do need to learn some martial techniques. I might as well see if there are any suitable investment targets while I am at it. At this moment, the outer sect disciples were all diligently training at the martial arts hall. Among them was Wang Hu, the very person you previously kicked off the heaven ascending stairs. That outcome resulted in him being relegated to the outer sect, while you have already become a true disciple. Thinking of this, he began to vent his anger by treating the punching bag in front of him as if it were you. It was at this very moment that you stepped into the martial arts hall. The moment he saw you, Wang Hu punched the sandbag away. Intending to intimidate you from the start, he was instead completely ignored by you. Furious, Wang Hu immediately sought out his cousin, Wang Hao. The two of them began to mock and ridicule you in a coordinated effort. Paying them no mind, you began to survey the surroundings. Your gaze drifted and settled upon a young man sitting in the corner. Seeing this, Wang Hu and his companion could not help but burst into laughter. As it turned out, this individual was named Xiao Chen, known widely throughout the outer sect as a complete good-for-nothing. However, seeing how intensely he was practicing his cultivation technique, you felt compelled to approach and observe his methods. Senior brother, would it be convenient for me to watch you practice? If you wish to watch, then watch, though I cannot guarantee that you will be able to learn anything. With that, he began to execute a set of Luhe fists, not only demonstrating the techniques with precision, but also taking the time to explain them to you as he moved. His explanations were remarkably clear and easy to grasp, leaving you full of curiosity as you watched. This senior brother's mastery of the Luhe fists is quite impressive, hardly the level one expects from an outer sect disciple. You quickly memorized the fundamental and spoke up. May I ask how you are addressed, senior brother? I am, Xiao Chen. So that is his name. In the novels you have read, is anyone bearing the surname Xiao ever truly ordinary? Thinking of this, you immediately activated the divine eye of destiny, and with a single glance, you were startled. To your astonishment, this senior brother Xiao possessed a purple destiny. Based on the recent encounters displayed on his attribute panel, you finally understood why he was mocked by Wang Hu as a piece of trash. Name Xiao Chen, 18, Foundation Nun Realm, Early Qi Blood Realm, Destiny, Purple. Assessment. Although his foundation is average, his comprehension is extraordinary, and his character is unyielding. Like a piece of raw stone, he conceals a precious jade within. A late bloomer who will undoubtedly carve out his own path in the future. Recent encounters. He carries a rare treasure, the 7-star ancient jade. This item is ancient and requires a massive amount of qi and blood to activate, which has caused Xiao Chen's cultivation realm to stagnate and decline. Seeing this, you made a firm decision. From now on, you will seek out investment targets. Anyone with the surnames Xiao or Yi will be meticulously groomed and harvested for their potential. While you were lost in these thoughts, Xiao Chen spoke in a low voice. Junior brother Qingfeng, if you have a conflict with Wang Hu, you should leave this place at once. Why do you say that, senior brother? The martial arts hall has a rule. Disciples may challenge one another to a duel, and the challenged party is not permitted to refuse. What kind of preposterous rule is that? Does it not fear that someone might be severely injured? So what you mean is that Wang Hu intends to force me into a duel later. Xiao Chen nodded helplessly and let out a sigh, clearly having suffered under such schemes more than once. Sure enough, Wang Hu approached you, with a sinister grin plastered across his face. I have never challenged a direct disciple before. Junior brother Lin, you wouldn't refuse me, would you? You cast a disdainful look at him, knowing that you could add martial Dao insight and the 6 harmony fist at any moment. You feared that if you made your move, you would easily strike him down. Seeing Wang Hu rubbing his hands together, preparing to strike, a tree branch suddenly tore through the air, carrying a biting chill. Wang Hu had no time to react. He was slashed across the neck, nearly losing his head in the process. The one who struck was none other than Ye Beihai standing at the entrance. Seeing this fierce, icy beauty, the blood drained from Wang Hu's face, and he began to tremble uncontrollably. Wang Hao gathered his courage and shouted, Junior Sister Yi, we are fellow disciples. How can you kill so recklessly? You had best give me an explanation, he demanded, though he was predictably ignored by the icy beauty. Immediately afterward, she walked to your side and said, follow me back to Kushui Pavilion. Just as you were about to speak, you were interrupted by a sullen-faced Wang Hao. Junior Sister Yi, you nearly killed my cousin just now. Even as a direct disciple of the sect master, you cannot act so lawlessly. Hearing this, Ye Beihai stopped in her tracks and replied, when I kill, there is never a nearly. Having said that, she walked out the door. None of the outer sect disciples dared to look her in the eye, while your expression was one of immense intrigue. That's right, precisely so, this is the feeling. It is truly befitting of a heaven-chosen daughter of the Empress, born with the bones of an emperor. Afterward, you happily followed your little wife into a luxurious carriage to return to Kushui Pavilion, where Ye Beihai casually picked up a withered branch to practice her swordsmanship, as she was testing the level of sword technique her current cultivation realm could execute. You stood by the kitchen door and asked, what would you like to eat today? Anything will do. I have never been particularly concerned with food, she replied. You do not need to spend too much effort on such things. It was clear that she had simply never tasted true delicacies before. I do not boast, but if I were to cook with all my heart, the resulting dish would be peerless throughout the world. However, Ye Beihai was training with such focus that she did not hear a word you said. You could not help but sigh inwardly. Human beings are not machines, and if one ignores their own needs for too long, the state of mind will inevitably develop issues. At this moment, an outer sect deacon arrived carrying various types of exotic beast meat, including bone-piercing ox, blue-scaled fish, and cliff goat. Receiving the beast meat, you began to salivate. With beef, mutton, and fish all present, it would be a disgrace to your identity as a transmigrator not to prepare a hot pot feast. Half an hour later, a rich and enticing aroma wafted through the courtyard. You sat beside the hot pot dipping a slice of bone-piercing ox meat, sliced as thin as a cicada's wing. After dipping it, you added a touch of chili oil and placed it into Ye Beihai's bowl. Watching her take a light bite, you asked with eager anticipation, it is passable. That said, the speed at which Ye Beihai moved his chopsticks was clearly faster than before. You saw through her but chose not to expose her, so you simply said, eat a bit more. The meat of the exotic beast is also beneficial for one's martial arts training. To desire food and beauty is human nature, a common affair for all. When the time comes to enjoy life, one should do so without hesitation. The hot pot simmered, sending billows of steam into the air, causing the peerless face of your wife to appear ethereal amidst the mist. You could only see her cheeks moving, though you could not tell if she had truly heard your words. After the meal, Ye Beihai continued to practice her swordsmanship. You remained behind to tidy up the bowls and chopsticks. Suddenly, the system notification resonated. Investment in a portion of exotic beast hot pot successful. Reward, 1 profound crystal. A profound crystal contains the purest primordial energy of heaven and earth. It can be used for alchemy, forging weapons, or as a power source for various artifacts. Its utility is immense. Upon reading the description, you were overjoyed. This hot pot meal had proven to be worth every bit of effort. Immediately after, a milky white crystal manifested in the palm of your hand. The aura emanating from it felt strangely familiar to you. Was this not the very item used to unlock the heaven rank gourd? A single piece is already worth a sky-high price. You have profited immensely. It seems that from now on you must ensure your wife is well fed. As you tucked the profound crystal away, you recalled a certain matter. This crystal could perfectly assist senior brother Xuantin in unlocking the 7-star ancient jade. Since you have no use for it yourself, it would be a worthy investment to bestow it upon him. In truth, you have begun to deduce certain laws regarding your investments. The level of heavenly destiny serves as the foundation for the rewards. Furthermore, the more the invested object benefits the recipient, the greater the resulting reward. Since Xuantin possesses a purple-tier heavenly destiny, the reward will surely far exceed the value of a single profound crystal. Having finished tidying up, you began to practice the 6 Harmony Fist. With the previous experience, you infused 5 points of martial insight, and within a single hour, you reached the level of mastery. You must realize that, at this moment, you have only opened 1 meridian. Afterward, you sat cross-legged to circulate the Fire Heart Lotus technique. Across the room, Ye Beihai, who was practicing her swordsmanship, suddenly knitted her delicate brows. His cultivation method is actually capable of channeling the primordial energy of heaven and earth. This is clearly not a technique that exists within the Qingyun Sect. Instead, it seems akin to a unique innate physique. Ye Beihai searched through her memories of the many prodigies she had encountered, yet none possessed a physique that resembled yours. A moment later, she cast these thoughts aside. Why had his transformation become so profound? Regardless, his specific physique matters little. It cannot possibly compare to the 10 absolute physiques. That evening you carried a basin of meat into Ye Beihai's room. This exotic beast meat needs to be kept cool. I shall store it in your quarters. In truth, you left one thing unsaid. The refrigerator is a brand of ice cube, and everyone who uses it praises its quality. If this were in the past, she certainly would have thrown the meat out and issued a warning. Do not enter her room so casually. But the savory taste of tonight's hot pot seems to still dance upon her tongue. Surely, she would not be able to enjoy such a meal again. Shaking her head, she pulled the bed curtains shut. As the bone-chilling cold spread throughout the room, she gradually drifted into sleep. That night she dreamt. She dreamt of the scene when she was the final sovereign of the heavenly pavilion. Chaotic images flashed by, causing her brows to knit even deeper in her sleep. Early the next morning, you arrived at the martial arts hall, only to discover that Xuantin had been severely wounded by someone. One could deduce with little effort that it was likely the work of Wang Hu. Without a word, you pulled him into a corner and handed him the box containing the profound crystal. Xuantin opened it and his eyes widened in shock. He immediately recognized how precious this item truly was. Furthermore, the jade pendant on his chest began to react violently. However, not only did he restrain his desire and thank you for your kindness, but he also cautioned you against revealing such an item so easily. You had not expected Xuantin to possess such character, and you immediately concluded that this man was worth befriending. Finally, under your persistent persuasion, he accepted the profound crystal. Although he did not offer a lengthy expression of gratitude, his steady gaze spoke volumes as he uttered a single sentence. Junior brother Lin, I shall never forget this grace for the rest of my life. You naturally understood the bond between brothers. Everything was understood, without further words. You chuckled and patted him on the shoulder. In that case, if I require your assistance in the future, I certainly will not stand on ceremony. Moreover, looking into Xuantin's eyes, you surmised that he would likely risk his life for you without a moment's hesitation. At this thought, your heart was filled with joy. As the saying goes, more friends mean more paths. If I continue to invest like this, once they reach their peak, will I not become the most influential figure in the Great Moon Pavilion? While you were lost in thought, the system delivered your reward. Congratulations to the host for a successful investment. A profound crystal, yielding the Extreme Armament 6 Body technique. The Extreme Armament 6 Body utilizes the sharp aura of weaponry to temper the physical body, aiming to reach the invincible pinnacle of the Great Path. Once this art is mastered, 10,000 armaments shall bow in submission, and the peerless body shall be forged. Any weapon wielded with this technique would see its power multiplied tenfold. In an instant, the complete martial art manual flooded into your mind. You realize this is an incredibly profound physical cultivation technique, which also enhances the ability to command elite armaments. Although the difficulty to master it is immense, the benefits far outweigh the arduous journey. You resolve to proceed regardless. After all, when wandering the pugilistic world, one cannot avoid the clash of blades. No matter how fine the armor, it is inferior to the strength of one's own body. For the sake of your own survival, you must master this technique. At this very moment, Wang Hu arrives to stir up trouble, giving you no time to react. You see Xuantin Chai step forward to meet him. While old Xiao is truly one to charge into danger for a friend, you are even faster than him. With a thunderous crash, Wang Hu is sent flying and slams heavily into the ground. You look down at him from above, wearing a calm and indifferent smile. You are too weak. A spar with you would yield nothing of value. Witnessing this scene, old Xiao at your side stands agape. Junior brother Lin, did you not just learn the Luhe Fist yesterday? How have you become so formidable already? Seeing his lackey bullied, Wang Hao shamelessly demands a spar with you. It must be known that you have only just entered the blood condensation realm. Yet he, already in the internal breath realm, would dare to challenge someone at the blood condensation stage. Even with the outer sect deacon of the martial arts hall attempting to intervene, Wang Hao relies on his status as an inner sect disciple to disregard the elder completely. He suppresses his cultivation to the early blood condensation stage and lunges towards you. At this moment, a surge of intense fighting spirit rises within your heart. You cannot help but feel moved. Perhaps it is the Xuantin Immortal Body reacting to Wang Hao's approach. Just as you are about to tell Old Xiao to step back, you realize that, somewhere along the way, he has already vanished from sight. While you are momentarily confused, Wang Hao's fist strikes towards you, but you react with a move that strikes after him yet reaches its target first. A precise, dangerous strike lands squarely against his ribs. Wang Hao stumbles back, shaken. He never imagined that your Luha fist had already reached the great completion stage. Enraged, he ceases suppressing his cultivation and throws a punch aimed directly at your dantian. Yet, in the next instant, Wang Hao is sent flying backward like a cannonball. You see a beautiful figure appear before your eyes. You immediately exclaim with joy. Your master glared at everyone with a murderous gaze, much like a tigress whose territory had been violated. You immediately understood. No wonder Elder Xiao had disappeared earlier. He had gone to fetch reinforcements. Well played, Elder Xiao. As you pondered this, Xiang Yu pointed a finger at Wang Hao and shouted, "You scoundrel, how dare you lay a hand on my disciple?" An inner disciple daring to strike a direct disciple. There must surely be someone pulling the strings behind the scenes. As these words were spoken, the outer sect deacon froze. Hongfeng wiped away a cold sweat, his legs trembling. After all, the veteran disciples all knew. In the Qingyun Sect, it is better to offend the sect master than to provoke this ninth elder. Seeing that the elders dared not respond, Xiang Yu sat down brazenly on the master chair and cast a sidelong glance at He Hongfeng. "You, go to the Divine Armament Peak and tell Fu Tu to get over here. If I do not see him within the time it takes to burn an incense stick, I shall pay him a personal visit." Hearing this, He Hongfeng felt as if he had been granted a reprieve and hurried away. At this moment, Xiao Qin let out a soft cough and whispered into your ear, "I heard that the Divine Armament Peak used to be very tall, only slightly lower than the main Qingyuan Peak." You immediately looked toward the Divine Armament Peak and noticed that a large chunk of the summit appeared to have been sheared off. Before you could even open your mouth to ask, Elder Xiao continued. Later, Elder Hani had a conflict with Elder Xiang Yu, and the mountaintop was simply blown away by Elder Xiang Yu. You could not help but widen your eyes, then glanced back at your beautiful master, who was sitting with her legs crossed, sipping tea. You suddenly felt as if the entire situation were absurd and surreal. Noticing your gaze, Xiang Yu beamed and waved her hand. "My good disciple, come here quickly. Are you injured?" You stepped forward, and before you could even feel moved, you heard her add, "Once Fu Tu arrives, we must extort a small fortune from him. Are you confident?" You could not help but break into a cold sweat. No wonder Master arrived so quickly. Before long, Fu Tu walked through the door, and upon seeing his disciple embedded in the wall, clinging to life, while Xiang Yu sat firmly on the high chair sipping tea, he could only swallow his anger and demand an explanation. When Xiang Yu nonchalantly finished her recount, Fu Tu cursed in a rage, "You useless fool." Just as he prepared to shoulder the unconscious Wang Hao and depart, he had not taken 2 steps before he was pinned in place by Xiang Yu's killing intent, causing the very hairs on the back of his neck to stand on end. Xiang Yu spat the tea dregs back into her cup, her expression filled with profound contempt. "Your Shenbing Peak still owes me an explanation," she declared. "Let us settle it this way. 10,000 caddies of cold iron, 1,000 caddies of red gold, and 10 caddies of refined iron essence. Should you fall short by even a single tael, do not even dream of walking out of these doors." The onlookers could not help but click their tongues in astonishment. This demand was equivalent to the entire 10-year output of Shenbing Peak. Even Elder Han he would likely struggle to produce such a sum. Unable to restrain himself any longer, Fu Tu stammered, "Xiang Yu, do not go too far," to which she retorted, "And if I do, what of it?" Before the words had even faded, a searing aura radiated from her, so stifling that it became nearly impossible to breathe. You looked towards your beautiful master and witnessed a flaming lotus blooming upon her figure, appearing as if it were eternal and indestructible. Fu Tu's momentum stalled instantly, for if this madwoman Xiang Yu were to truly lose her temper, even the sect master would be forced to concede a few steps. You immediately grasped the situation and sought to mediate. "Master, Elder Fu Tu is merely a deacon of Shenbing Peak. He truly cannot provide such a tribute. Your disciple has not suffered any injuries. Perhaps we might reduce the compensation? Then, my apprentice, what would satisfy you?" You nodded and immediately scribbled down a list, most of which consisted of the rare teas that Xiang Yu favored, along with several other precious miscellaneous items. Although it was unavoidable that he would be stripped of some assets, it was no longer as unreasonable as it had been moments prior. Seeing the 2 teacher and student working in perfect unison, Fu Tu had no choice but to accept the list and suffer the loss. Once the crowd had dispersed, Xiang Yu's brows danced with joy. After laughing, she unexpectedly pulled you into a tight embrace, even burying your head against her chest, nearly causing you to suffocate. If asked to describe Xiang Yu's figure at this moment, you would not hesitate to utter the words, breathtaking, in the literal sense. With great difficulty, you finally managed to pull yourself free. Then, Shang Yu suddenly remarked, "Not a bad disciple of mine. You have already learned 3 parts of my disposition." Hearing this, Yu offered a wry smile. "Master, could you share some of those spoils with me?" "Very well, I shall split it with you. 1 portion is yours." Afterward, Shang Yu escorted you to Shenbing Peak. Under Han He's instruction, Fudo handed over all the items to Shang Yu. At that same moment, a system notification echoed within your mind. You never expected that helping your master extort others would count as an investment. It is a massive profit, and as you gloat inwardly, Shang Yu and Han He begin discussing a wager regarding their disciples. The stakes involved are far beyond what the items on your list could ever compare to. Naturally, Shang Yu would never pass up an opportunity to earn wealth. He immediately accepts Han He's challenge, allowing you to enter the Divine Wind Cave to see exactly how deep you can venture within. After all, Han He's genius disciple, Murong Xiao, only at the 5th meridian of the Blood Essence realm, has already managed to reach the 2nd level. The Divine Wind Cave is filled with lethal armaments, some of which possess the power to seize souls and claim lives. Entering the cave serves as a dual trial for both body and mind. Even Shang Yu has never reached the lowest level of the Divine Wind Cave. For your safety, before you enter the cave, Shang Yu hands you a small bell. This is a spirit connection bell. If you find yourself unable to hold on, shake it twice, and your master will come to retrieve you. Many thanks, master. True to its reputation, the Divine Wind Cave is everything they say it is. Having walked only 50 paces on the 1st level, you have already reached your limit. You decide to pour your remaining 5 years of martial enlightenment entirely into the Extreme Armament Body technique. Before long, the Extreme Armament Body reaches perfection. You channel the razor-sharp aura of the armament surrounding you into your body to further temper your physical form. Feeling that the timing is right, you conclude your practice and head toward the 2nd level. Upon stepping into the 2nd level, a dense wave of killing intent crashes into you, causing your consciousness to falter. You hurriedly consume a heart-cleansing pill, and the sensation begins to dissipate. After walking 100 paces forward, you spot the genius Murong Xiao sitting cross-legged, practicing his arts. Yet to your shock, Murong Xiao's face has turned pale and blackened. It is evident that this inner disciple who possesses a half-demon constitution has reached a life-or-death crisis. Truly, it could be said that one thought separates heaven from hell. As you pull back your thoughts, you notice that dark veins are nearly covering his face, and dragon horns have even begun to sprout from his head. His consciousness is on the verge of fading away completely. Without a second thought, you feed him a medicinal pill. A long while later, Murong Xiao opens his eyes. Upon realizing you saved his life, he hastens to express his gratitude. "Many thanks to Brother Lin for your assistance. I was careless and allowed the killing intent to invade my mind. The body of a half-demon is often influenced by its bloodline. Yours must surely belong to the dragon lineage. Just a moment ago, I saw horns sprouting from your head." As the words fell, Murong Xiao suddenly collapsed to his knees. "I beg you, do not tell anyone else. Rest assured, I will keep this a tightly guarded secret. In that case, I offer Brother Lin my deepest gratitude. By the way, what was that medicinal pill you gave me earlier?" "It is this, the Qingxin pill. You may keep the rest." Having said that, you continue toward the 3rd level. Murong Xiao recovers his senses and intends to stop you, but he discovers that he is fundamentally unable to take even a few steps. When he sees that the bottle is filled with 6 pattern Qingxin pills, his composure completely crumbles. After all, he is someone who grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. This is the first time in his life that poverty has limited his imagination. He has no idea exactly how much this collection is worth, because to those who require it, this is a priceless treasure. He feels such immense gratitude that he wishes he could kowtow to you a few more times. Thinking of your plan to enter the 3rd level of the Shenfeng Cave, while still in the Qi Blood realm, he leaps outside the cave to seek reinforcements. It must be said that this old Mu is worthy of a deep friendship. As for the 3rd level, even your extreme soldier body finds it difficult to withstand the pressure. These armaments were all once possessed by inner realm experts. Looking at them, one can almost glimpse the past, feeling the sharp, murderous aura left behind by the masters of these legendary weapons. It is enough to directly erode a person's consciousness. After walking less than 10 steps, you consume the Icefire liquid. Immediately after, you activate your extreme soldier body, continuing to utilize the murderous aura of the weapons to temper your physical form. No one knows how much time had passed when Han He and Chang Yu arrived at the 3rd level with the others. They were instantly stunned by the scene before their eyes. They saw you surrounded by dozens of legendary weapons, each one emanating a sense of gentle submission. After all, to be recognized by a single legendary weapon is already a tremendous stroke of fortune. To have dozens of them acknowledge a master at the same time. This made Han He wonder if something was wrong with his own eyes. Even Kang Yu, who was usually uninhibited and wild, was left speechless, felt their perception being fundamentally challenged. But very quickly, their eyes began to shine with increasing brilliance. "That's right, Elder Han He, if I recall the rules of your Divine Wind Pavilion correctly, isn't it true that as long as one is recognized by a divine weapon, they may take all such weapons with them? You mad woman, did you come to my place to clear out my stock?" "You have remembered incorrectly. Every disciple is permitted to take only one weapon from the Divine Wind Pavilion." "That is not right. I recall it was not like this before. Before is the past, and now is the present." While the two of them argued, you gradually regained consciousness, and upon understanding the cause, you declared that you would not take a single divine weapon with you. Shang Yu was not only unbothered by this, but even pleased. Then, once you are capable of entering the 4th level of the Divine Wind Pavilion in the future, we shall return to select more. Elder Han He, do you not agree? As these words were spoken, Elder Han He's eyelids twitched uncontrollably, for the 4th level contained what could be considered the sect-guarding treasures of the Divine Armament Peak. Seeing this detestable old man suffer a loss, Shang Yu patted your shoulder in triumph, but upon doing so, she discovered a clue. Little Feng Feng, why is your body so hard? Upon hearing this, your face darkened with frustration, though the extreme weapon body technique was indeed exceptionally effective. At the very least, you felt that now taking a slap from your master would no longer cause you pain. And this was merely the first day, and you would only grow stronger in the future. Once the intensity of my physical body increases, I shall make another trip into the Divine Wind Pavilion. The item that resonated with me must be hidden even deeper within. You only need to invest to become stronger, and investing in your wife will only make you stronger still. Meanwhile, the genius Murong Xiao in whom you had just invested was currently pacing like an ant on a hot pan. After all, you were his life-saving benefactor, and just as he was on the verge of madness from anxiety, Elder Han He brought Shang Yu and you out of the cave, and Murong Xiao immediately leapt in front of you, waving his fingers. Brother Lin, do you still recognize me? How many is this? Brother Murong, do you not only have 5 fingers? Then, what is 5 plus 5? You have not turned into a fool, your intellect remains intact. That is truly excellent. Brother Murong, I thank you very much. No sooner had you finished speaking than Shang Yu hauled you onto the carriage. The beautiful master appeared to be in excellent spirits, striking the horse's flank firmly with her whip. The beast let out a pained whinny before galloping forward, leaving a trail of dust in its wake. Instead of returning you to Quan Nok Peak, Shang Yu headed toward Thuthu Pavilion. Seeing that dusk had fallen, you took the opportunity to build a fire and prepare a barbecue. At first, Shang Yu only sampled a small morsel, but soon she was eating without pause. Even Deep Back Hai's young wife offered high praise, proving that the flavor was truly exceptional. Suddenly, Shang Yu reached out to snatch the grilled fish from Deep Back Hai's hand, though she failed to secure it. This left the beautiful Supreme Master somewhat displeased. I say, little Deep, you are the most respectful of the principle of honoring one's master, so surely this grilled fish should be offered to me as a sign of filial piety. You are not my master. Besides, you have already eaten your fill. Girls who eat too much will grow fat. I am still at an age where I am growing. Oh my, you spend every day with my good disciple. Just have him make some for you next time. Seeing Shang Yu's pout as she folded her arms across her chest, Deep Back Hai was suddenly reminded of the past. Within those fading memories of the eastern wasteland, there were only a few significant figures who had left a profound impression upon her. And among them was Xiang Yu during the collapse of the Tanvan sect. If not for Xiang Yu, it is likely she would not have survived her escape from the Tuduang mansion. Shaking her head to cast aside these distracting thoughts, a flicker of determination appeared in her eyes. In this lifetime, those tragedies would absolutely not repeat themselves. At this moment, you approached the pair carrying a flask of wine. As the saying goes, fine meat should naturally be accompanied by fine wine. You spoke, pouring a small cup for each of them. The wine in the cups shimmered with 2 distinct hues of red and blue. Xiang Yu twitched her delicate nose, instantly perking up. What wine is this that smells so fragrant? Master, this is Icefire wine. Upon hearing this, a flash of astonishment sparked in Deep Back Hai's eyes. After all, Icefire wine was not something a minor sect like the Thanvansa sect could easily procure. Only great prestigious sects used it to reward disciples with immense potential. Just as she wondered where you had obtained it, Xiang Yu, having consumed the Icefire wine, suddenly leaned in close to you. My good disciple, where exactly did you get this wine? You immediately leaned backward, maintaining a respectful distance. Reporting to Master, this wine was obtained when your disciple— Oh, you possess such an extraordinary stroke of fate? To think you could enter the 3rd level of the Divine Wind Cave unscathed. While Shang Wu saw no issue with this explanation, Ye Beihai took a sip of wine, his heart already clear on the matter. She had likely guessed that you had obtained some form of inheritance. As you conversed with Shang Wu, you instinctively picked up a wine glass and took a drink. Only after swallowing did you realize you had mistakenly used your young wife's glass. You sheepishly retrieved a fresh glass for her, and poured it full. Yet the tranquil lake of her heart seemed to experience a faint, lingering ripple. One must remember that in her previous life, she had severed all 7 emotions and 6 desires. Romance would only hinder the speed of her blade. And yet just now she had felt no repulsion toward that sensation. Perhaps it was the Icefire wine. With that thought, she drained the Icefire wine in a single gulp. Before leaving, Shang Wu gifted you a mid-tier martial arts manual, the Origin Flow Sword Technique, to prepare you for the upcoming sect trial. It seems she is quite attentive towards you, her obedient disciple. By now, Ye Beihai's heart had regained its composure. Before the sect trial commences, there is a task only she can undertake. She must venture forth to claim a certain inheritance. Simply because that inheritance was not left behind by a mortal. With things having reached such a point, what is there left to invest in? Deep in the night, you are soaking your feet while reviewing today's investment returns, eager to see how the returns from your beautiful master fare. Congratulations to the host, investment in a portion of Icefire wine successful. 1 portion of roasted exotic beast meat has yielded a return of 100 flour condensation paste. The investment also returned 1 night shining pearl. The 100-flower condensation paste is a superior medicinal balm, harvested from 100 types of rare flowers and strange herbs. Every drop contains potent vitality, possessing miraculous effects in treating external injuries. The night-shining pearl, produced in the Eastern Sea, glows eternally and is an essential treasure for the dwelling of a high-level cultivator. Very quickly, the system delivered the rewards. Staring at the system interface, you cannot help but exclaim, "This iceberg master is truly the most rewarding investment. For the sake of these rewards, I must cling tightly to the jade legs of this iceberg." Congratulations to the host. Investment in a portion of Icefire wine successful. One portion of roasted exotic beast meat has yielded a return of 20 years of martial insight. Receive a return on investment of 1 profound crystal. Just then, the system notification chimed again. The host has 1 pending reward. Do you wish to claim it? You immediately realized this was the reward for saving Murong Xiao earlier that day, and with a single thought, you accepted the prize. Congratulations to the host for investing 1 bottle of heart-clearing elixir, successfully saving Murong Xiao and preventing him from falling into a demonic path. Receive a return on investment of 1 heavenly book seal. After reviewing the description, you fell into deep contemplation. Currently, the highest level technique you possess is the Extreme Body Forging Record, which is classified as an ultimate technique. Meanwhile, the Fire Lotus Heart method is merely a superior grade martial art. Above the ultimate technique rank, there exist divine arts. If you can obtain a silver or gold heavenly book seal in the future, you might be able to upgrade the martial arts you have already mastered. Upgrading existing techniques would be far more convenient than transitioning to entirely different cultivation manuals. Forget it, I will deal with that when the time comes. With your focus cleared, you brought out the Liu Yuan sword manual your master had just bestowed upon you. After all, besides this mid-tier sword manual, you had no other martial arts currently available to upgrade. You gently pressed the heavenly book seal against the pages. Instantly, the tadpole-like script began to glow and churn, swirling across the scrolls. Some characters were rearranged by the small tadpole-like runes, while others were consumed and reorganized into entirely new text. You watched this miraculous display with wonder. About 5 minutes later, the tadpole script lost its luster, vanishing without a trace, while the sword technique recorded in the manual transformed into the Fire Crane Heavenly Dance Sword. I currently only have 20 years of martial arts insight. If I poured it all into my other 2 techniques, it might not be enough to break through from the great perfection stage to the consummation stage. Then I shall learn this sword technique first. Who doesn't dream of being a peerless swordsman? Is there anything more dashing and heroic than riding the wind? Whether it is powerful or not is a secondary concern, but being cool is a lifelong priority. Filled with anticipation, you poured all your martial insight into the Fire Crane Heavenly Dance. Is it because sword techniques are harder to study than internal methods or physical forging that 20 years of insight only reach the small successes stage? Or do I truly lack talent for the sword? Shaking your head to cast aside these stray thoughts, you sat down on the ground and began practicing your internal cultivation method. Before long, you entered the state of unity of heaven and man, and the purest essence of the world flowed into your body like water. 3 hours later, the Yangwei meridian in your body was opened. You still found this pace too slow. If others were to know of this, they would surely think they had encountered a ghost, but even you were stunned by the changes within your own meridians. You have discovered that you possess 36 major meridians. For a martial artist, these major meridians act as the engine of the body. This means that in the future, your ability to circulate life force will be triple that of an ordinary practitioner at the same stage. Such combat prowess is truly explosive. Surpassing ranks will be as easy as turning over one's hand. You suddenly think of your young wife, Ye Beihai, whose assessment clearly stated that her life was destined for misfortune. If no accidents occur, it is only a matter of time before something happens to her. If she meets with trouble while we are living under the same roof, I fear I will be dragged into the calamity as well. As this thought takes hold, a sense of urgency rises within your heart. After relieving yourself and drinking a glass of water, you return to your cultivation. While practicing, you discover a strange phenomenon. It seems that as long as you cultivate, you feel no fatigue at all. If you were not limited by the rate at which you convert primordial energy into life force, you would truly want to train for all 12 hours of the day. On the other side, Ye Beihai is also practicing, having already successfully cleared 2 meridians. Even so, she feels that this speed is still not fast enough. She exerts her power, causing the entire room to feel as if it has plunged into a frozen abyss in an instant. While training, she suddenly thinks of you, and her heart, usually as rigid as ice, is stirred by a faint ripple. She does not hate this feeling, but she detests that she is being influenced by it. What displeases her even more is that she cannot fathom the origin of this sentiment. Could it be because I still owe him a debt of gratitude? If that is the case, then when I travel to the inheritance site, I shall bring you along. Having been a hard-working student in your past life was enough, yet unexpectedly, even in this mystical world, you must still strive just as hard. You were just about to rename yourself Lin the Diligent when you realize that your young wife is even more hard-working than you. You immediately sigh with emotion. That iceberg is still training. She is truly so dedicated. It is no wonder she is destined to be a daughter of heaven. Having thought of this, you prepare small steamed buns for your young wife. After all, this is an investment. Furthermore, you understand the principle that a truly successful investor knows even a mosquito's leg has meat on it. At this moment Ye Beihai is still practicing, so you do not go in to disturb her. You decide to head to the Shenfeng cave to increase your physical endurance. You have not gone far before you encounter Old Xiao. As it turns out, thanks to the profound grade manual you provided, Old Xiao has returned to the 10th meridian of the life force realm. He has also awakened the elder residing within his 7-star pendant. Old Xiao has come this time to repay your favor. Since someone is offering a gift, this pouch contains a single feather. It is a remnant left behind by a beast of high-tier bloodline. Not only can it ward off malevolent spirits, but it also tempers the physical body. While your current defensive measures are formidable, they are not necessarily equipped to withstand magical damage. This item perfectly compensates for that weakness. With one investment, you receive 2-fold returns. You feel as though you have struck gold. Just as Old Xiao approached the window of Ye Beihai's room, a gust of cold air suddenly blew it open. You called out in that direction. The buns in the kitchen are still hot. I am heading to the Shenfeng cave now. As Old Xiao hummed a tune, the voice of the Tianxing Martial Venerable suddenly echoed in his mind. This child's talent is truly monstrous, a genius rarely seen in 10,000 years. Hearing this, Old Xiao halted his steps. Master, are you speaking of junior brother Lin? I am speaking of the young girl in that room. That girl may one day carve her name into the legends of the 9 heavens and 10 lands. I did not expect junior sister Yi to be so remarkable. She and junior brother Lin are childhood sweethearts after all. As the saying goes, when one person attains the Tao, even their chickens and dogs ascend to heaven. In the future, you should interact more with this junior brother Lin of yours. Even if you hadn't said anything, Master, I would have done so anyway. Because junior brother Lin and I get along very well. He is my first true friend. Your disposition is quite commendable. I hope you maintain this initial sincerity. At that same moment you reached the 3rd floor of the Shenfeng cave, and immediately sat cross-legged, circulating the Supreme Body Tempering Manual. 3 hours later, a creature, half human and half beast, suddenly appeared at the cave entrance, staring intently at you. This person is the son of the True Beast Peak Master from Yinhua City, and also a direct disciple. He never imagined that hundreds of different types of artifacts would be swirling around you. His eyes became bloodshot as his vertical pupils dilated in shock, sensing a wave of killing intent surging toward him. You immediately opened your eyes and turned to look back. A single glance was enough to startle you. What in the world is this? What kind of thing is this? Surely this cannot be human, can it? And no one mentioned there were monsters inside the Shenfeng cave. Regardless, my physical body is now on par with a sharp weapon. I can attempt to descend to the 4th floor. Watching you brush the dust off your robes and walk into the 4th level, without so much as a backward glance, the fragile Tao heart of Yin Huacheng seemed to shatter. He had spent years of bitter toil striving for a single famous tier weapon, yet you did not even spare one a single glance. He had undergone thousands of trials for the sake of body tempering, not even hesitating to transform himself into a monster. Yet to this day he dares not approach the 4th level of the Divine Wind Cave. Your starting point upon entering the sect is the very destination he cannot attain despite his desperate prayers. As the son of a peak master born with a silver spoon in his mouth, Yin Huacheng's composure collapsed in an instant. Why? Why not choose me? On what grounds does he deserve this? While this inner disciple of the Yin clan was descending into madness, you had already stepped onto the soil of the 4th level, where a sharp, piercing killing intent rushed to meet you. Despite your achievements in body tempering, you felt an immense, crushing pressure. Your physical body, equivalent to the pinnacle of mortal weapons, felt a faint, stinging pain. You drew a sharp breath, and immediately your internal organs and viscera felt a faint, numbing sensation. Fortunately, you had previously tempered your internal organs and meridians as well. Otherwise, it is unlikely you would have been able to endure it now. You lifted your gaze, only to see the vast 4th level, one half frozen with frost, the other radiating such heat that the air itself warped. The sight was truly absurd, and the remaining armaments were far fewer in number. Before you stood 9 stone pedestals, each impaled with a weapon. Atop the first pedestal rested a longsword, its entire body a translucent, brilliant crimson. As you drew closer, you saw an inscription carved before the pedestal, created by the first peak master of Divine Weapon Peak. After observing the sun and moon, I gained enlightenment. Modeled after the Fenkong sword, ranked 5th on the 9 provinces divine weapon list, I forged this, crafting a profound tier weapon and naming it Xiao. You did not expect this to be a profound tier weapon. Armaments are divided into mortal, sharp, keen, and famous tiers. Above famous tier weapons are the rank 5 profound weapons. As for what lies beyond profound tier weapons you have never heard, but according to the characters left on the stone pedestal, this profound weapon is merely an imitation, meaning the original Fenkong sword must be even more formidable. There were more characters below, so you continued to read. The 4th generation Qingyun Peak Master of Qingyun Sect Qin Xiameng takes the sword this day. The 6th generation Qingyun Peak Master of Qingyun Sect Lua Rulong. The 13th generation Master of Luohe Peak of the Qingyun Sect Yu Hong. Having reached the perfection realm in the Blazing Sun sword technique, I humbly request the Qixiao sword. As time passed, the intervals between the arrival of various peak masters to claim their swords grew longer. You could not help but fall into deep contemplation. It appears that only those of the Qingyun Sect are qualified to become its master. These profound weapons of the Qingyun Sect are becoming increasingly rare. Furthermore, it seems this particular sword had been lost for a period of time. It was not until you reached the end of the record that you discovered your beautiful master's name. The 33rd generation master of Kunyu Peak, Shang Wu, who slew a top-tier assassin from the Jiyu Tower. Having recovered the Chixiao sword, you scanned across the 9 stone platforms. You now roughly understood that these were all profound weapons forged by the various generations of the Divine Armament Peak. One only needs to gain the recognition of a profound weapon to become its master. However, once the energy required to command the profound weapon wanes, it must be returned. Yet you remained ignorant of the criteria required to become a weapons master. To say you were unmoved would be a lie. You had dreamed of wielding a magnificent longsword. On this first stone platform, there were 2 swords in total. One was the aforementioned Chixiao, while the other stone platforms were mostly empty. You could not tell if they had been claimed by others or simply lost to time. Suddenly, the sound of a sword hum resonated, as if it had sensed your approach. The Chixiao sword, embedded in the stone platform, trembled incessantly. In the next instant, your vision blurred. Not far away, a swordsman with a blade strapped to his back appeared, standing tall and motionless. You could not make out the swordsman's features, yet a sharp, piercing aura emanated from him. The opponent did not speak, yet you seemed to understand his intent. A duel of sword techniques? So be it. My superior tier sword technique has already reached the minor completion stage. Surely I have nothing to fear from you. 10 minutes later, you clutched your chest and opened your eyes abruptly. Just a moment ago, in your state of bewilderment, you had been pierced through the chest by the swordsman's blade. Though you were not truly wounded, the hallucinatory sensation of burning pain remained. Your minor completion sword technique was simply insufficient. You could not even withstand 5 strikes from him. The Chixiao sword ceased its humming. It fell into silence once more. It seems one must cultivate a superior tier martial art to the perfection realm in order to become a weapon master. Yet, despite possessing 76 years of martial insight, it was not enough to push your fire crane heavenly dance to the perfection realm. Suddenly, your gaze sharpened and locked on. Behind that cliff face, something seems to be summoning me. But before me, the path has clearly come to an end. Must I truly shatter this cliff to proceed? On the other side, Yin Huacheng struggled as he emerged from the cave entrance. After clarifying your background through Fudo, Wu Duan became convinced that you must be carrying a rare treasure. The rage in his heart instantly vanished, replaced by a burning, intense greed. You remained completely oblivious to the fact that you were being targeted. At this moment, deep within the 4th level, you were in no rush to break the cliff, choosing instead to continue utilizing the sharp essence of the wind to temper your physical body. As your physical form gradually neared the standard of a sharp weapon, the energy radiating from you suddenly grew even more frigid. The protective light surrounding you intensified, finally reaching its critical threshold. You opened your eyes sharply and exhaled a single breath. The cliff face opposite you was actually shattered, leaving a massive hole. Splendid. Breath was as lethal as a sharp arrow. If it were to strike an opponent in the initial blood-chi realm, it would likely leave them severely wounded, if not worse. You then picked up a piece of blue stone and applied slight pressure. It turned into fine powder, slipping through your fingers. Ha ha ha, my physical body is now comparable to a sharp weapon. I fear even an 8th-grade exotic beast would find it difficult to pierce my defenses. Furthermore, my skin seems to have become more refined. You have also become more handsome. Stabilizing your mind, you entered the hole and discovered a hidden passage within. After emerging from the passage, 2 pools appeared before your eyes. One resembling molten lava, and the other resembling freezing, bone-chilling ice. At the intersection of the 2 pools stood a jet-black hammer. Just then, the black hammer vibrated, and you felt as though the entire divine weapon peak was trembling along with it. At the same time, a vision surfaced in your mind. You saw a bearded man holding a weapon, striking a sword blank with the black hammer, sending sparks flying everywhere. Could it be that all these mystical weapons were forged by this very hammer? The moment the thought crossed your mind, the image before you shifted. The bearded man swung the hammer into the head of a flood dragon. Its skull exploded instantly, leaving only its horns behind. Thereafter, this hammer fell into the hands of various other powerhouses, striking down experts from all corners of the world. Unaware of how much time had passed, you finally regained your senses. It was only then that he realized it was no hallucination. The entire divine armament peak was truly trembling. Just as he rushed outside, a voice echoed directly into his mind. I have been waiting for you. Who was it that spoke? Could it be that hammer? He never dreamed in his wildest fantasies that what had beckoned him was a hammer. As he struggled to escape the divine armament cave, Murong Shaoxi approached to greet him. Brother Lin, what happened to you? I was merely cultivating and accidentally tore my robes. He spoke with a calm veneer, yet his heart remained deeply unsettled. After all, the disturbance today was undoubtedly caused by his actions. Seeing 9 divine figures standing at the entrance of the divine armament cave, he realized the gravity of the situation. Even the masters had been alarmed. It seemed the origin of that hammer was far from ordinary. Brother, why don't you follow me and change into different robes? Once the 2 of you had departed, the 9 elders arrived at the ice and fire pond. Seeing this, Shang Yu chuckled. Han He, it seems this antique hammer has chosen its master. Upon discovering this truth, everyone could not help but gasp in shock. One must realize, this is a legendary divine armament. Yet they could not fathom why, after recognizing a master, the weapon remained here. At this moment, Yin Huaxuan, the master of Beast Peak, interjected. Could it be that its master simply cannot lift it? Hearing this, Han He waved his hand dismissively. Impossible, absolutely impossible. How could a divine armament choose a master who cannot even wield it? After some deliberation, the elders of the various peaks left the divine armament cave, leaving only Han He, who stared at the hammer with a look of profound disillusionment. Are you truly unwilling to settle for being a mere blacksmith's hammer? When evening arrived, you and Ye Beihai were sitting down for dinner. There were only 3 small dishes on the table, though you did not cook them yourself. They were brought back from the cafeteria. Ye Beihai only ate half a bowl before setting down her chopsticks, for the food today felt tasteless to her. In truth, she had never been fussy about food, but since tasting your hot pot and grilled meats, her standards had changed. Much like the famous saying, I could have endured the darkness had I never seen the light. Evidently this principle applied just as well to the culinary arts. Looking at these ordinary dishes now, Ye Beihai felt a sense of emptiness in her heart. She glanced across at you, only to see you mechanically shoveling rice into your mouth, your expression filled with existential doubt. At this moment, your state of mind was truly complex. It was then that Old Mu had secretly told you. The disturbance in the Divine Armament Cave was likely caused by the Divine Armament known as the Star-Forged Calamity Hammer. Yet you have never practiced the way of the hammer, and that divine weapon seems to have a peculiar affinity for you. Could it be that I am not meant for the sword, but instead destined for the hammer? At this thought, an image suddenly manifested in your mind. In this vision, you stood wielding a great hammer, a wicked smirk playing upon your lips. With a single strike, you obliterated all formidable enemies, leaving nothing but dust in your wake. Suddenly, you set your chopsticks down with a sharp clatter, dispelling the image from your thoughts. Having lost all appetite, you refused to accept such an absurd notion, and strode into the courtyard, longsword in hand, to practice your swordsmanship. At your age, to reach the minor mastery of a supreme-grade sword technique is a feat that would earn the praise of any elder. Ye Beihai, a genius of the sword path, considered you worthy of her attention. However, compared to the true pinnacle of the sword path, you as a genius still have a long distance to bridge. Even without the experience and vision of her past life, she required only half an incense stick of time to reach minor mastery in a supreme-grade sword technique. Yet there exists a monster of the sword path even more terrifying than her, the legendary one born with a sword heart and sword bones. Such a person can comprehend and innovate any sword technique at a single glance. They created a top-tier sword technique at the age of 10, and mastered a god-tier technique to the realm of perfection by the age of 20. Such a person truly exists, and they were a defeated foe that left a profound impression on Ye Beihai. Then there is the little princess of Great Yu, who is a natural-born sword embryo. Born for the sword, her sword path talent is the greatest in the world, making her even more daunting. After practicing for a while, you were forced to admit that this was not sword practice. At best, it could only be called sword dancing. Because after one full cycle you felt no improvement, and you did not even know in which direction to strive. One does not fear a lack of effort, one fears having no direction in which to exert that effort. Could it be that I am truly not meant to be a swordsman? Suddenly, Ye Beihai's voice reached your ears. Your sword technique emphasizes the restrained yet unreleased intent. Before you could react, your sword had already appeared in her hand. The longer you accumulate the energy, the more devastating the final burst of power will be. Therefore, delivering a strike must be as precise as delicate embroidery. You must control every fraction of your internal strength. The greater your control, the more formidable the accumulated power becomes. Watching her demonstrate while instructing you, you were momentarily stunned, though soon you felt yourself becoming intoxicated by her skill. That ice-cold woman had clearly never practiced the fire crane sky dance. Could what she said truly be correct? Collecting your focus, you poured 20 years of martial arts insight into the fire crane sky dance sword technique. A torrent of sword path experience. In merely a fleeting moment, the sword technique had reached the stage of great success. Yet within his heart, there was no joy to be found. The guidance provided by that ice-cold woman was indeed precise. However, she had never practiced this particular sword manual herself. Merely by watching me practice it once, she was already capable of refining my form. Is the Empress truly this terrifying? At that moment, Ye Beihai sheathed his blade, turned, and softly asked, "Have you learned it?" "I have learned it, now, perform it once more." With a complex heart, he accepted the sword and began to practice. Watching his somewhat rigid figure, a hint of satisfaction appeared in her eyes. Acceptable. If you can be taught, you are not entirely hopeless. You may yet be worthy of training. After finishing, he turned around and spoke. Was my practice correct? But he discovered the space behind him was empty. The second-floor window was already closed. It seemed she had returned to her cultivation. He wondered how many meridians she had opened by now. Tonight, he would attempt to open the 9th. By late night, Ye Beihai had successfully condensed his 9 meridians several times faster than in his previous life. Now blessed with the support of a mysterious system, he believed that in this life he would undoubtedly become the strongest being across the 9 heavens and 10 earths. As time flowed on, the sun rose and the moon set. Early in the morning, he was already busy in the kitchen. He prepared a more sumptuous breakfast than usual. He considered it a reward for that ice-cold woman. After all, she had provided him with guidance the day before. In truth, what pleased him even more was that he had successfully cleared his 9th meridian the previous night. After a simple meal, he headed to the mountain gate as was his custom. He prepared to harvest a new wave of martial insights. 10 minutes later, he had a massive hoard of investment returns waiting to be claimed. These martial insights totaled 115 years, alongside various other miscellaneous items. 3 days later, he successfully cleared his 10th meridian, and at the same time, received letters and packages sent from home. Especially upon reading the final sentence in his father's letter, "Those close to the water, see the moon first, seize the opportunity and win her heart." It was clear his father was quite impatient, hoping to hold a plump grandson by next year. He could not help but rub his forehead and sigh. Who could truly understand his plight? In his past life, he was pressured to marry at 26. In this life at 16, he still could not escape the pressure to wed. Yet, in this fantasy world, it was quite common for a man of 16 to take a wife. Immediately afterward, he felt a slight headache. It was truly difficult to imagine that ice-cold block acting as a virtuous and devoted wife. Setting aside all other matters, just the thought of the two of you sharing a blanket at night? You took a moment to compose yourself before approaching her door. "My mother tailored these new clothes for you. I shall leave them here at the entrance." After placing the garments down, you went to prepare breakfast. Not long after, Ye Beihai walked into the living room wearing the new attire. Upon seeing her, you nearly lost your composure, for those jade-like legs of hers were wrapped in black silk, and you quickly realized it must be a material known as cloud silk, light, durable, and resistant to both heat and cold, with a price that is anything but cheap. Protective gear of this nature is far more expensive than any weapon. Whoever invented this is truly a genius, reminiscent of the prodigies from your previous life. After finishing breakfast, Ye Beihai suddenly spoke with a cold demeanor. "I will wait for you at Wangyu Cliff for 1 hour. See that you arrive on time." You were confused as to why she would suddenly say this, but she clearly had no intention of explaining further. Filled with curiosity, you activated your heavenly fate divine eye, and upon seeing her recent revelations on the status panel, you finally understood. "Splendid. Have I truly been relegated to the status of a burden?" Name: Ye Beihai, age 16, Foundation Tian Moon Emperor Physique. Realm: 10th Meridian of the Blood Chi Realm. Destiny: Crimson, possessing the profound Ice Emperor bone. Temperament: Autumn Water Deity, bearing the bearing of an imperial heaven. Fate assessment: a life of many tribulations, yet always turning misfortune into a blessing. Though her wings are not yet fully formed, when the winds of fate shift, she will surely rule over the 9 heavens and 10 earths, the 6 directions, and the 8 wastelands. Recent encounter: participating in the sect's trial. Intention: to journey to the 9-colored origin Emperor's legacy site to obtain the essence, specifically one of the Emperor's 9 souls, the River Soul, to repay a debt of gratitude, and preparing to bring a burden along for the journey. Wangyu Cliff lies deep within the trial grounds, and the path there requires crossing through the territory of peak 9th-grade exotic beasts. Without genuine capability, one truly cannot hope to set foot there. As you stepped down from her private carriage alongside Ye Beihai, you could hear many trial disciples whispering among themselves. "Is that the sect master's true disciple, Ye Beihai? This junior sister is breathtakingly beautiful. Keep your voice down. I hear she has already reached the 8th meridian of the Blood Chi realm." What a monster. And who is that, beside her? That is Lin, the true disciple who entered the sect at the same time as her. Moreover, he is known as a truly good and virtuous man. Hearing this, the corner of your mouth twitched. "Thank you, I suppose. I do not perform good deeds for the sake of fame, nor do I require a badge of honor for my actions." At that very moment, you notice Wang Hu in the crowd, glaring at you with intense hostility. Although he maintains his usual arrogant expression, there is a subtle hint of sickness lingering between his brows. You are unsure what madness has gripped him this time, so you stir your thoughts, and your heaven's mandate divine eye sweeps across him. After a quick scan, you have a rough understanding of the situation. It turns out that among the outer sect disciples you previously invested in, you discover that many have been implanted with demonic seeds by the Huanmo cult. However, those disciples were only targeted by the demonic cult after leaving the sect. But Wang Hu has yet to step out of the mountain gate. How could he have come into contact with the demonic cult? Name: Wang Hu, age 16, Foundation Tiger Arm and Leopard Demon Bloodline. Realm: 8th Meridian of the Blood Chi Realm. Fate: Black. Assessment: possesses some innate talent. If he practices with diligence and hardship, he may achieve some success in the future. However, his heart is narrow. He is vengeful, arrogant, and aggressive, prone to walking down an extremist path. Recent encounters: he is deeply submerged in the demonic seed and has strayed too far. His own vital essence is no longer sufficient to sustain it, and he is preparing to devour the blood of exotic beasts, gradually losing his sanity. It seems this sect trial will likely be far from ordinary. Your wife is truly formidable. As soon as the sect trial began, she slaughtered exotic beasts as easily as drinking water, essentially 1 strike per kill. The elders outside the arena could not help but be repeatedly astonished, yet you remained motionless. Kang Yu let out a yawn and muttered, "Why hasn't my good disciple made a move yet?" No sooner had the words left her lips than an explosion echoed in the air. Lin Qingfeng had slain a 9th-grade spirit stage viper beast. But looking at the projection, the state of the snake's carcass was gruesome, appearing as though it had been crushed underfoot like a tin can, which was completely different from the style of Ye Beihai. Seeing this, the portly elder Qian Bufan rubbed his round belly and fell into deep thought. "Junior nephew Kang Yu, is that disciple of yours not practicing swordsmanship? That boy has already brought the Luhe technique to great completion." Hearing this, the elders opened their mouths, unsure whether to offer praise or not, for your combat style was far too similar to Kang Yu's. The Qingyun Sect already has one Qingyu to deal with if a second one were to appear, and so the elders began their performative charade once again. Elder, why did you not take that Lin boy under your wing back then? My quota for personal disciples was already full. Elder Qian, you had a vacancy. Why did you not recruit him? I certainly wanted to at the time, but was it not senior nephew Shangwu who moved faster than me? Is it still possible to guide him away from the path of error now? The elders sighed in unison, lamenting the situation. Suddenly Shangwu let out a sharp, cold rebuke. If you wish to poach my student, so be it. But who among you can defeat me? Whoever does shall claim my precious disciple as their own. As these words fell, the elders immediately fell silent, terrified of provoking this madwoman's wrath. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, you encountered a massive turtle. This creature, known as a boulder-backed turtle, possessed the strength of a late-stage 9th rank beast. You drew your steel sword immediately to execute the fire crane art. However, not only did the shell remain uncracked, but your blade nearly shattered from the impact. The boulder-backed turtle cast a triumphant, provocative gaze towards you. As a transmigrator, being looked down upon by a mere turtle was intolerable. You sheathed your sword and instantly pushed the blood essence energy of your 10 meridians to their absolute limit. Following that, you unleashed a punch. A thunderous boom erupted upon contact. The shell of this ancient beast was finally pulverized into fragments. Its 4 limbs spasmed as it successfully logged out of existence. Yet your heart was filled with profound indignation. I intended to be a swordsman, not a pugilist. Witnessing this scene, the expressions of the elders became increasingly vivid and varied. Compared to the situation involving Ye Beihai, who up until now had dispatched every beast encountered with a single precise strike, as if she possessed perfect knowledge of their vulnerabilities. As for you, they truly did not know how to evaluate your performance. A man who shouts about practicing the sword, yet relies entirely on his fists in real combat. Several hours later, you and Ye Beihai had essentially steamrolled the competition, leaving everyone else far behind in the dust. Ye Beihai was temporarily holding a narrow lead over you, and in third place was Wang Hu, the man who had always regarded you as his sworn enemy. However, at this moment, Wang Hu had transformed into a feral beast in pursuit of points. He actually intended to slaughter his fellow disciple Lin Jiang. The sounds of their violent struggle quickly caught your attention. When you arrived at the scene, your eyes widened. What kind of monstrous beast was Lin Jiang fighting? No, this was not a beast. You realized something was amiss. You immediately activated your heavenly mandate divine eye to scan Lin Jiang's status. Age 16, root mantis snake hybrid, realm, 6 meridian of the blood chi realm. Heavenly mandate, dark cyan. The assessment indicated that while his natural talent was decent, he was overly impetuous, too rigid and prone to breaking. If he could awaken in time, he might still travel far. His recent encounter, after a fierce battle and without time to regulate his breath, he had crossed paths with Wang Hu, who had been consumed by the beast seed. Though his consciousness was not yet extinguished, he would be unable to recover after sustaining such grave injuries. Looking at the information displayed by the system, you could not help but raise an eyebrow. It was indeed Wang Hu who had consumed a beast seed, forcing himself into this monstrous, demonic state. Wang Hu was clearly resorting to vicious methods, yet your heavenly mandate divine eye suggested that Lin Jiang would not perish. Could the elders be behind this? A sudden realization dawned upon you. You surmised that the elders must have been secretly observing Wang Hu's actions all along, though it was unclear why they had not intervened directly. Nevertheless, you could not simply stand by and watch. To let a true disciple perish would be a waste, so you decided to rescue him. After all, doing so would secure another cyan-grade investment. Seeing you rush forward, Lin Jiang intended to warn you of the danger, but to his surprise, you struck Wang Hu with a single blow, forcing him back into his human form. He collapsed onto the ground, unconscious. This sight left Lin Jiang agape, his mouth wide enough to swallow 2 eggs. Wang Hu was equivalent to a peak 9th grade beast, yet he had been subdued in an instant, and with only 1 strike. In truth, he felt that you hadn't even used your full strength. Otherwise, you would have killed Wang Hu outright, instead of merely knocking him unconscious. Everyone had clearly joined the Qingyun Sect at the same time. Why were you so powerful that it induced a sense of despair in others? In reality, Lin Jiang had come to the sect with martial arts experience. Before entering the Qingyun Sect, he had spent a long time training at a martial arts academy. When you first joined, you had not even opened your meridians, acting as nothing more than a commoner who couldn't even trust a chicken. Back then, he could have defeated 100 people like you with ease, yet in such a short time you had already left him behind by a vast chasm. Just as Lin Jiang was beginning to question his very existence, a wooden box was presented before him. It contained the 100-flower dew paste, a medicinal balm with miraculous healing properties for external wounds. Lin Jiang regained his senses and looked up to see your radiant smile. Without hesitation, he accepted the gift and secretly applied the medicine to his injuries. At that very moment, the system notification echoed in your mind. Investment successful, half a jar of 100-flower dew paste. Received in return, the martial arts technique, Golden Bell Claw. Do you accept? Decline. Having answered the system internally, you waved your hand at Lin Jiang. Very well, wait here for the deacon. I am in a hurry and must depart. With those words, you strode forward, continuing your path toward Wangyu Cliff. Many thanks for saving my life, Brother Lin. Safe travels, Brother Lin. Watching your retreating figure, a sense of awe and admiration stirred uncontrollably within his heart. It was only when he left the trial grounds and reported to the elders that he finally understood the true motive behind the event. It turned out the elders were merely waiting to lure out the influential figure backing Wang Hu, which was why they had not acted sooner. Yet the simple, unadorned strike you had delivered earlier had once again shattered the preconceived notions of these old masters. Although you and Ye Beihai both stood at the summit of the ascending heaven staircase, the elders still firmly believed that Ye Beihai's innate talent far surpassed your own. After all, the terrifying rate of Ye Beihai's progress had left them utterly stunned. Nevertheless, they had not expected that you would truly possess the mettle to stand as her equal. Especially after Wang Hu was brought back, they discovered that his entire arm had been twisted and shattered, and it in no way resembled the aftermath of a fair fight. It was not a struggle between equals, but rather appeared as if he had been casually crushed by a ferocious beast of superior strength. Setting other matters aside, this ferocious combat prowess alone was enough to rival that of Ye Beihai. The elders could not help but harbor doubts, questioning whether they had misjudged the situation back on the ascending heaven staircase. Meanwhile, your beautiful master merely smiled, her almond-shaped eyes curving like crescent moons. He recalled their wager, and his aged face instantly darkened like the bottom of a charred pot. Although his own disciple Murong Xiao was outstanding, the gap between him and you was truly as vast as the heavens and the earth. At this moment, Elder Chan Bufan could not refrain from exclaiming, "With these two, the Qingyun Sect will surely flourish." Hearing this, the other elders nodded in agreement. The founding ancestors of the Qingyun Sect, at that time, even though their territory was merely a prefecture under the Ziyang Manor, they actually held the undisputed top position in the entire eastern wasteland. Unexpectedly, a generation arrived that produced prodigies bearing the aura of the sect's founder. And even more surprising, two such individuals appeared at once. Once you enter the North Sea to mature, the Qingyun Sect will likely see the sun and moon sharing the sky. Thinking of this, Shi Jing let out a chuckle and spoke up. Qing Feng rescued his fellow disciples and subdued Wang Hu. Let us credit him for one 9-rank peak demon beast kill. Does anyone have any objections? To everyone's surprise, no one opposed it. They even agreed that adding a few extra points was only reasonable. Thus, the scoreboard changed. Ye Beihai at 119 points, Lin Qingfeng at 116 points. It turned out that shortly before this, Ye Beihai had also slain a 9-rank peak exotic beast. Therefore, a slim margin of 3 points still remained between the two of you. The future is long, one must take things slowly and plan accordingly. For now, there are still those lurking in the shadows, watching us. Shi Jing spoke, drawing everyone's attention back to the matter at hand. The elders deliberated for a time and finally decided to temporarily transport the captive to Ruyi Peak for imprisonment and interrogation. After all, Wang Hu's beast transformation is linked to the Huanmo sect. Only the sect master can make the final decision upon exiting seclusion. Moreover, since the enemy didn't even care about Wang Hu's death, there will likely be no further incidents during this trial. Suddenly, a deacon returned, dragging 2 late-stage 9-rank exotic beasts behind him. The elders took one look and knew immediately that this must be your masterpiece. With this additional feat, your score soared to 146, instantly surpassing Beihai to take the first position. Xiang Yu stood with her arms crossed, head held high in triumph. My precious disciple is now in first place. Let's see who dares to claim I don't know how to teach a disciple from now on. You only desired to be an illustrious master of the sword, yet fate cruelly led you down the path of a dagger-wielding assassin. On the way, you no longer had the heart to hunt exotic beasts. No matter how generous the sect's rewards might be, they certainly cannot compare to the inheritance of your icy wife. Just look at that 9-colored origin phoenix, such a supreme opportunity. If not for clinging to her coattails, you would likely never have the fortune to encounter it in this lifetime. It is sweet, it is truly sweet indeed. While lost in thought, you reached Wangyu Cliff. You scanned your surroundings, yet found no trace of the fabled inheritance. This Wangyu Cliff is not some desolate remote wasteland. It is said that young couples from the Beast Peak often come here to rendezvous. There are many rumors and strange tales within the sect regarding this place. If it were so easily discovered by others, it would not be much of a hidden inheritance. I fear it has already been exposed. How could that ice-cold woman have discovered it? Could it be that, like me in Shenfeng Cave, she possesses a spiritual resonance with that mace? The fated opportunity here must be calling out to her. As you pondered this, you walked to the edge of the peak to observe. Must one truly leap from Wangyu Cliff into the Qingyuan Abyss? Suddenly, an illusion flickered before your eyes, as if a heaven-shaking sword intent had descended. This sword intent seemed like divine retribution falling from the 9 heavens, capable of severing every obstacle in this world. At that moment, you felt as if your physical body were about to shatter. Could it be that this Wangyu Cliff was carved out by a single strike? This terrifying thought suddenly took root in your heart. A sword strike unleashed countless years ago, yet its lingering intent remains even to this day. Truly, it is a brilliance that chills the 19 prefectures. What manner of powerhouse could achieve such a feat? Perhaps in the future, the Ice Queen will become a powerhouse of similar, or even greater stature. As you thought this, you recalled the heavenly fate divine eye's assessment of Ye Beihai, and could not help but heave a sigh. Why am I not the material of a sword refiner? Next time, I shall equip a better blade and attempt this again. As you finished speaking, Ye Beihai reached the summit of Wangyu Cliff. Seeing you standing by the precipice, covered head to toe in beast blood, she faltered for a moment. By her estimation, you should still have been in the Stone Creek forest at this time. especially since one would inevitably encounter peak 9th rank exotic beasts further along the path. Even if you were at the 12th pulse of the blood chi realm, relying solely on a mastery of sword techniques, it should have been impossible to resolve such challenges so easily. Considering that this journey is by no means simple for those in the blood chi realm, she had specifically granted you an extra hour of time. Yet this fellow arrived even earlier than she did. It is truly mysterious. Hearing the movement behind you, you turned and smiled. She had finally arrived. Go on, attend to your wounds first. I shall wait for you. I am not injured. This is merely the blood of exotic beasts. If you do not believe me, see for yourself. I encountered 2 minor exotic beasts blocking the path, and as I was in a hurry, I did not hold back. Having said this, you stepped closer to her. Yebehai reached out and touched your chest lightly. It truly is the blood of beasts. Could it be that he encountered no trouble along the way? Is his fortune perhaps a bit too extraordinary? Looking at your handsome, radiant face, filled only with the joy of keeping your promise on time, she saw no trace of impatience. This made it impossible for her to see through you at this moment. Being stared at so intensely, you suddenly felt your face flush. Furthermore, her fingers were still resting upon your chest. The cool sensation was, to be honest, quite refreshing. Just then, a gravelly voice shattered the moment, dampening the mood. My 2 esteemed inner disciples, have I arrived at an inopportune time? You and Yebehai turned your heads almost simultaneously, only to see a figure cloaked in black, face concealed, standing behind you. When had they arrived? I originally intended to settle a score with Disciple Lin, but I never expected such an unexpected harvest. Even Disciple Yi is here. When mentioning Yebehai, the voice of the black-cloaked figure trembled slightly, even carrying an irrepressible sense of excitement, to the point where the words villain might as well have been written upon his face. Suddenly, you fired a signal flare that tore through the air. Without wasting words, you immediately summoned reinforcements. However, the black-cloaked figure did not stir. Instead, he looked at you with a mocking expression. Disciple Lin, you would do well to use your head. Had I not made thorough preparations, do you truly think I would have appeared here? Oh Yebehai, it truly pains me to see you and him become star-crossed lovers dying together. As long as you. Before the black-cloaked man could finish his sentence, you expressionlessly gave the heart-link bell a gentle shake. The black-cloaked man's expression shifted instantly, cold sweat breaking out across his back. He naturally knew who this bell would summon. Cursed, the black-cloaked figure, now enraged, prepared to strike you down. A flash of swordlight descended. It was Yebehai who had hurled the longsword from her hand. The black-cloaked man was confident he could parry this strike, yet he had to admit that Yebehai's strength far exceeded his imagination. The term genius was simply insufficient to describe her. Even for someone at his cultivation realm, taking such a strike head-on would result in injury. The black-cloaked man was ultimately forced to tilt his body to evade the blade. Seizing the moment, Yebehai shouted toward you, jump. Seeing you nod without a hint of hesitation, Yebehai suddenly felt that you were even more unfathomable than before. This was a cliff of bottomless depth. Why was there not even a flicker of fear in you? Was it because you trusted her? Though questions swirled in her heart, she was not one for hesitation. Since you were willing to trust her, she did not waver, grasping your hand and leaping with you from the mountain peak. Seeing this, the black-cloaked figure rushed forward, watching as the silhouettes of the young man and woman vanished into the sea of clouds, his eyes filled with disbelief. Frustrated, who could have anticipated that this individual was actually the personal disciple of Yin Huacheng of Zhenshu Peak? Yin Huacheng's mind went blank, his pupils constricting into the shape of needles. He had witnessed many pathetic displays of humanity before death, yet he had never seen anyone plunge toward their own demise without the slightest hesitation. Even he did not know the true depth of this abyss, and furthermore, it harbored an immensely powerful pressure within. Even a sect master, with strength reaching the external realm, would not dare to descend without thorough preparation. 2 lowly figures at the Bloodchi realm had only one path, death. Madman, you 2 are even more insane than I. Clearly, he deeply regretted dodging that sword strike just now. For while not dodging would have resulted in injury, and injury might have exposed his traces, that would have been far better than his current predicament of losing everything to gain nothing. This meant that not only had he failed to obtain the high-grade medicinal ingredients for his cultivation, but he had also committed the grave crime of harming a personal disciple. Moreover, that beautiful master of yours with the explosive temper is about to arrive. Suppressing the surging emotions within his heart, Yin Huacheng quickly stripped off his black robes, cast them into the abyss, and donned the attire of a personal disciple. Having completed this, he prepared to send a message to the elders. However, before he could act, a figure overflowing with intense killing intent landed on the peak with a thunderous crash. What is it like to provoke a stunning female master who is notorious for being fiercely protective of her own? Today Yin Huacheng, who intended to harbor ill will, was about to find out. One could see Shang Yu staring at him with a face as cold as ice. Where is my Yin Huacheng felt his throat go bone dry. The words he had prepared could not be uttered, not even a single one. He could only stammer, disciple only just arrived. At that moment, the other elders landed on the peak one after another. Seeing this scene, Yin Huashuan immediately interjected, Shang Yu, let us first clarify what has occurred before we speak further. With his father providing support, Yin Huacheng found his courage renewed. He finally exhaled, continuing, Wangyu Cliff is the area for which this disciple is responsible. I heard the signal flare and rushed over immediately. Yet when this disciple arrived at the location, Wangyu Cliff was already completely deserted. Upon hearing these words, the expressions of everyone present turned incredibly grim. For there is only one path leading up to Wangyu Cliff. At this moment, if they cannot find you or Ye Beihai, the only explanation is that both of you are at the bottom of the abyss. Just then Jing walked to Xiangyu's side, clutching a long sword. This sword belonged to Ye Beihai. She must have encountered a formidable enemy, forcing her to unleash a desperate strike. Those two children are far beyond the ordinary blood circulation realm. Even if they cannot defeat someone in the internal breath realm, they should at least be able to hold their ground until we arrive. Could it be that the one who attacked them has reached the divine official realm? No sooner had Chan Bufan spoken than the expressions of everyone present shifted drastically. Who could have expected that the Huanmo cult followers behind Wang Hu had the two true disciples as their true targets? Suddenly, with a sharp crack, Shang Yu struck Yin Huacheng, sending him flying with a single palm. Fortunately, Yin Huashuan acted in time to catch his foolish son. Shang Yu, what is the meaning of this? Every year the trials result in casualties. If something happens every time, is everyone expected to harass the deacons? It would be best if I never find out that you had any involvement in this matter. As these words were spoken, Yin Huacheng reacted as if facing a mortal enemy, his face instantly turning as pale as a sheet of paper. Yin Huashuan, however, maintained his composure. Shang Yu, I sympathize with your state of mind, but you must not go around making baseless accusations. Enough, this is not the time for internal strife. Elder Qian is absolutely correct. The most pressing matter is to determine if Qingfeng and Beihai are still alive, and if so, how to rescue them. The elders fell into a heavy silence upon hearing this. They were completely ignorant of the situation at the bottom of the abyss. The sect possesses no records whatsoever regarding this location. Just as everyone stood in silence, the resonance bell on Shang Yu's wrist chimed twice. It is Qingfeng, he is still alive. Overcome with emotion, Shang Yu prepared to leap down without a second thought. Fortunately, Shui Jing and Chan Bufan managed to pull her back. Martial niece Shang Yu, you must not be so reckless as to jump down like that. Indeed, that is correct. Since they are still alive, let us deliberate on a plan. We shall certainly find a way to rescue them. While the elders attempted to dissuade Shang Yu, the Yin Huashuan duo remained silent, a flicker of astonishment surfacing on both their faces. Just as Yin Huacheng was about to speak, he was silenced by his father's sinister glare. Get back to the beast-taming peak. Meanwhile, you and Beihai are still plummeting through the thick mist, the oppressive pressure intensifying with every passing moment. You can barely perceive anything in your surroundings. Only the coldness of the small hand within your grasp provides you with a fleeting sense of reality. You look toward the owner of that small hand, and within her half-closed eyes, there remains that same pure, cold indifference that has never changed. It was unclear whether he possessed absolute certainty of success, or if he was simply devoid of the fear of death. At such a great height, if she were not the daughter of destiny, would she not surely face a grim demise? Yet, even if she were indeed the daughter of destiny, she might still suffer a grievous fall or sustain severe injuries. Without her, this nameless inheritance site could never be explored. Therefore, this iceberg of a woman could not be allowed to come to harm. Driven by an inexplicable impulse, you pulled her closer, drawing her soft form into your embrace, the rhythmic, warm heartbeat of her body resonating against your own. Beihai furrowed her brows slightly, yet she remained still, casting a gaze of confusion toward you as she shifted her posture downward. Did he intend to use his own body to cushion her fall? Even though her heart was usually as tranquil as still water, she could not help but feel a sense of absurdity at such a height. If they were to truly plummet to the ground, what use would his body be? Despite these thoughts, she had never experienced such intimate contact with a man before. In her past life, no man had ever dared to venture within 3 meters of her. Beihai bit her lip, feeling a flicker of shyness, yet in the end she did not push the youth away. Time seemed to blur, and eventually, the intense sensation of weightlessness faded away. You landed upon the earth, cushioned by a trail of iridescent 7-colored light. It was this grace that ensured neither of you suffered any injury. This radiant glow emanated from nearby, spilling forth from the cracks of a massive stone gate. Thank you, you may let go now. Realizing your embrace had been too tight, with your faces mere inches apart, you released her in a moment of embarrassment. Where is this? You told me to come to Wangyu Cliff. Was your intention to bring me here? Yes, that is correct. Then how did you know of this place? I have visited this location in my dreams. Having spoken, she instinctively reached for her waist, only to find her sword missing. Use mine. You offered her a standard steel sword and she noticed the blade bore several small grain-sized nicks. It seemed that his journey to Wangyu Cliff had not been as effortless as he had claimed. Suppressing these thoughts, Beihai nodded slightly and took the sword, moving forward. You followed closely by her side, scanning the surroundings with vigilance. Since this was an inheritance site, it was likely guarded by hidden trials. As soon as that thought crossed your mind, a bone-chilling wind swept through the area, causing a tremor to shudder deep within your soul. Accompanied by a cacophony of overlapping whispers carried upon the gale. Join us. Descend into the depths. Why do you still cling to life? A peerless, fortuitous encounter. Take me with you, but what are these things? You cast your gaze around through the dim light, discovering black swirling mist, within which hideously pained faces flashed by from time to time. If this were the past, Beihai certainly would not have bothered to explain, but today, she deigned to answer your questions. When a martial artist cultivates to the Guanshen realm, they can observe the wonders of heaven and earth to temper their spirit. When the Guanshen realm is perfected, one can project their spirit to manipulate physical objects. If a Guanshen martial artist falls, yet harbors a deep obsession, a remnant of their spirit will not dissipate, manifesting instead as an yin entity. These are the lingering obsessions of Guanshen martial artists. Through her explanation, you immediately understood. It appears that many powerful experts have explored this place, yet all have failed, leaving only a trace of their obsession behind forever. These are the lingering obsessions of Guanshen martial artists. Through her explanation, you immediately understood. It appears that many powerful experts have explored this place, yet all have failed, leaving only a trace of their obsession behind forever. Guarding the nine-colored origin's sovereign inheritance, they could never obtain themselves. At this moment, a cold wind gathered more yin entities, sweeping in from all directions. Beihai, standing beside you, suddenly moved to strike. This was the first time you had witnessed her taking action with such seriousness. You saw a flash of sword light bloom into hundreds of sword blossoms. Each blossom of swordji struck an yin entity with pinpoint accuracy. This was the perfected stage of the falling flower sword technique. However, this attack, sufficient to force even a Neishi realm expert to retreat, failed to inflict any damage upon the yin entities, merely knocking them back into the swirling mist. Before long, they surged forward again. It was clear these entities knew no fear. Before she could finish her thought, she sensed a warmth emanating from behind her, like the touch of fire. It turned out that the fire sparrow feather hidden in the pouch at your chest was reacting. This fire sparrow feather, imbued with pure primordial yang, was the natural nemesis of these wicked yin-corrupted beings. You threw a punch, and the yin entity before you instantly dispersed into smoke and ash. Seeing this, Beihai's tense posture relaxed slightly. Within that pouch lay a trace of the Phoenix clan's aura. It was likely left behind by a bird possessing the bloodline of a true phoenix. With this, there was no longer any need to divert her attention to protect him. After throwing that single punch, you stood motionless on the spot. This left Xiao Beihai feeling somewhat perplexed. In truth, the system had suddenly sent a notification. Congratulations to the host for a successful investment, helping Xiaorong dissipate her obsession. To think the investment return was 1 year of martial arts enlightenment. Who would have guessed that slaying vengeful spirits also counted as an investment return? It is no wonder they say that delivering the souls of the departed is considered an act of great merit. You regained your focus and looked toward the silhouettes swirling within the mist, a glint of eagerness flashing in your eyes. After all, even a mosquito's leg is still meat, one must collect the rewards. Just as you were about to throw another punch, you noticed the iceberg-like beauty frowning as she watched you. While many of these vengeful spirits are seniors from my sect, since it is a simple matter, I hope you will let them rest in peace. Beihai pursed her lips, a somber glimmer in her eyes, but she ultimately did not urge you to hurry, choosing instead to stand silently by and watch you perform. It is said that when a man and a woman work together, the task is less arduous, and with a beautiful wife supporting you from the sidelines. Within the span of 2 incense sticks, you had thoroughly purged the area of vengeful spirits, earning a continuous string of investment returns in exchange. A rough calculation yielded 86 years of martial arts enlightenment, which, added to your existing base, brought you to nearly 200 years of cultivation experience. You also acquired various miscellaneous items, including damaged weapons, medicinal pills of varying effects, and gold and silver treasures. There were even a few land deeds among the spoils. Although Beihai did not intervene much, her presence alone served as a powerful deterrent. You sincerely cupped your hands and bowed to her, thanking her for guarding your back. It is nothing. Beihai sheathed her sword, an inexplicable, unfamiliar sensation suddenly stirring in her heart. Sometimes she could not fathom why you would do things that yielded no obvious profit, wasting so much time, yet the feeling lingering afterward was not entirely unpleasant. Shaking her head to cast aside these stray thoughts, she walked toward the inheritance stone gate, which was overgrown with moss. Her fair hand pressed against the stone, and with a strange vibration, the stone gate slowly creaked open, revealing an interior filled with a dense twilight glow. At the origin of this glow stood a miraculous, vivid little tree that seemed lifelike. Not far from the tree lay a small pool filled with a crimson liquid, emitting a strange fragrance that made your pores expand. And this was the inheritance of the 9-colored origin emperor. Seeing that everything remained unchanged from the moment she arrived in her previous life, Beihai finally breathed a sigh of relief. This was because the 9-colored origin phoenix was of paramount importance to her. It could be said that without the 9 souls of the 9-colored origin phoenix, the blood emperor scripture she relied upon would be as unstable as duckweed, perhaps even inferior to an ordinary martial art. The reason she was able to be reborn was that, in the final moment, she utilized the forbidden nirvana technique hidden within the theoretical stages of the blood emperor scripture. Now that she had obtained the lower soul earlier, and without needing to fumble through trial and error, she could comprehend its full, miraculous essence. In this lifetime she would soar higher, faster, and further. Composing her fluctuating emotions, she spoke softly. That pool of water is infused with a trace of essence blood from a divine beast. If you enter and soak within it, the future benefits for you will be immeasurable. At the very least, your body refining cultivation can reach a new height. Well then, many thanks, and you should quickly go to receive your own inheritance. Although the iceberg-like woman did not state it explicitly, you knew deep down that this so-called essence blood of a divine beast was, in all likelihood, the essence blood of the nine-colored origin phoenix. Even if this journey provided no return on your investment, it could still be considered a bountiful harvest. The rewards provided by the system that could compare to this spring water were extremely rare. Even though the iceberg-like woman always maintained a distant and cold exterior, it was clear that she was still thinking of you in her heart at this moment. Thinking of this, you joyfully leaped into the pool, and instantly, a surge of overwhelming vitality flooded into your body. It was truly refreshing, profoundly refreshing. Watching your relaxed and satisfied expression as you bathed, she thought that repaying this favor would have been difficult. She felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her heart, yet, for some reason, she felt a lingering sense of emptiness within. Forget it. The fact that you have reached this day is already a significant change to your destiny. In the future, perhaps you will secure a place for yourself in the eastern desolate region. Suppressing her stray thoughts, she lowered her eyes to look toward that small tree. The sapling was clearly shorter than a person, yet it faintly exuded a vast and silver-like splendor. The branches were barren, and it was impossible to tell if it was alive or dead. She bit her fingertip and dripped her blood onto the soil at the base of the small tree. The next moment, a miraculous scene unfolded. At the first drop, the withered trunk began to radiate with newfound life. At the second drop, green sprouts began to emerge from the trunk. At the third drop, the sprouts transformed into branches and began to grow rapidly. At the fourth drop, the foliage began to flourish and become lush. A tiny flower bud sprouted at the very crown of the tree. By the time the ninth drop of blood fell, a cry that seemed to tear through the very fabric of space erupted. Perched upon that flower bud stood a tiny yellow bird, no larger than the palm of a hand. It was the soul of the river. She immediately reached out her hand, hoping for it to perch upon her palm. However, the yellow bird fluttered its wings and swiftly flew away. Her gaze followed the bird, only to discover that it had landed upon your shoulder, dancing about in a manner that appeared deeply affectionate. What? Did the nine-colored primordial phoenix soul, which I painstakingly nurtured with my own vital blood, actually choose this person instead? Beihai found it difficult to accept this reality. She even questioned if this was merely an illusion. The fact that her Taiyin moon phoenix could successfully awaken the soul of the river proves that her physique and the nine-colored primordial phoenix share a profound, inherent connection, and logically, she should have been the chosen successor. This was a truth she held absolute certainty in, from her past life to her current existence. But why was he the one chosen? Could it be because of the true phoenix aura contained within that manual? You were soaking in the hot spring, and upon opening your eyes, you saw a petite, adorable bird dancing upon your chest. Just as you were about to ask Beihai what was happening, you discovered that her expression was complex to the extreme. Your heart skipped a beat. Could this truly be her inheritance? The atmosphere instantly turned silent, and only the sound of your breathing could be heard. The scene became momentarily awkward, and suddenly, you stood up from the water and tentatively asked, "About that? You aren't thinking of killing me to seize the treasure, are you? We are, after all, close companions who grew up together." Beihai's mood had been beyond words, but seeing your anxious expression made her feel strangely amused. "And why wouldn't I?" As she spoke, you conversely felt your expression relax. "Don't try to deceive me, you are not that kind of person." Beihai merely raised her eyes to look at you in silence, but her heart rippled with emotion. "That is right. If this young man did not trust me completely, he would not have followed me and jumped down here, would he? This thing is very important to you, isn't it?" Yes. After answering with that simple word, she could not help but fall into her memories. The 9 souls of the 9-colored primordial phoenix had helped her overcome countless trials. To call it mere destiny would be an understatement, as it felt more like an inseparable part of her very life, and among them, the soul of the river had accompanied her for the longest time. Yet now a piece of her own soul had chosen someone else. The emotions stirring within the young lady Xuantin were complex to the extreme. You scrutinized the small bird dancing in your palm once more before speaking up. "This must be something truly formidable, is it not?" Your thoughts were interrupted as Beihai let out a sigh. "If it has chosen you, then it belongs to you. Have you not spent such immense effort? Are you truly not resentful?" "I am, but it has chosen you. Furthermore, without it, I am still myself." These words from Beihai carried an air of absolute dominance. You had to admit that you were slightly moved by her effortless coolness, and after much difficulty, you had hoped to tease this iceberg of a woman. Yet the outcome was that you were the one put on display instead. Reflecting on this, you could not help but chuckle. No wonder she is the daughter of destiny. Immediately afterward, you stopped the little golden bird that was attempting to nestle against you. The little golden bird displayed a sense of grievance, its expression human-like in its confusion. You stroked its small head and said with a smile, "Go now, go to where you belong. If you follow her, you will still be able to see me often." The little golden bird seemed to understand your intent and flapped its wings, landing upon Beihai's shoulder. In that moment, Beihai's face, usually as cold and tranquil as jade, finally lost that unshakable composure. She gazed at you with eyes full of astonishment and bewilderment, as if perceiving you for the first time, and posed a question. "It can alter your destiny. It could even grant you the opportunity to stand at the pinnacle of the 9 heavens and 10 earths." If you repent now, there is still time. I know, but it is not often that I see you find something you deem truly important. That is no small feat. In truth, the more precious an item was to her, the greater the return on your investment would be. An inheritance precious enough to alter Beihai's fate. You anticipated that the rewards the system would bestow upon you would be even more terrifying than those of he. At this moment, Beihai's serene eyes were fixed upon you, staring in a daze. His smile remained as radiant as ever. There was no reluctance, no hesitation, and it even seemed to carry a hint of anticipation. Having lived 2 lifetimes, this iceberg had witnessed far too many of the world's cold realities. She had seen couples turn into mortal enemies over opportunities, fathers and sons drawing blades against one another, and siblings turning on each other for power. She had long grown accustomed to such things. It was precisely because she could no longer trust anyone that she had been able to walk so far. But today, by voluntarily yielding this heaven-sent opportunity capable of defying fate itself, you had once again redefined her perception of reality. If you continue to act like this, it won't be like you anymore. Hurry and accept the inheritance. Your voice cut through her train of thought. A hint of tenderness emerged in Beihai's eyes as she nodded in agreement. Little golden bird flew directly into the space between her brows, transforming into a plum-red cloud mark upon her forehead. The very next moment, 1,000 rays of auspicious light erupted forth, surging out from the cave entrance with such magnificent, blinding splendor that it illuminated the entire Qingyun Sect in a way that defied description. Simultaneously, the piercing cry of a phoenix echoed endlessly, reaching toward the heavens. Its sound could be heard across the entire eastern wasteland. Witnessing this scene atop Wangyu Cliff, the elders were so profoundly shocked they were left speechless. Qian Bufan was the first to regain his composure, moving with great haste to inform the sect master. At this moment, the Qingyun Sect had undoubtedly become the most dazzling spectacle within Ziyang Prefecture. The city lord of Ziyang Prefecture stood by his window, observing the sight. Why is there such blinding radiance erupting from outside? Reporting to the prefecture lord, it is directed toward the Qingyun Sect. Shall I draft an invitation for Elder Yin Waswan of True Beast Peak to visit the residence? Follow the city lord's command. Also, Princess Shulong has gone missing. As he finished speaking, Steward Wang Ba was already drenched in cold sweat. After a long silence, the voice of the Ziyang prefecture lord finally resonated. Even if you must scour the earth 3 feet deep, you will find her and bring her back to me. With such a monumental event occurring at the Qingyun Sect, the sect trials were naturally brought to an early conclusion. Sectmaster Shangguan Wenshang stood upon Wangyu Cliff. The elders finally began to recover from their profound state of shock. How long have Beihai and Qingfeng been gone? Approximately 2 hours, Sectmaster. They have likely entered one of our sect's secret halls, and have already secured the inheritance for themselves. I too hold the same belief. Ha ha ha, my precious disciple has truly brought glory to my name. If my disciple obtains the inheritance, he will undoubtedly become the future sectmaster. Once he assumes that position, I shall be the grand elder. By then, I shall be able to spend the sect's treasury however I please. As she spoke, drool nearly spilled from Shangwu's lips, utterly devoid of the dignity one would expect from an elder. The sectmaster, however, was long accustomed to this behavior. As for the other elders, their lips merely twitched uncontrollably. If this madwoman Shang Wu were to become the grand elder, wouldn't the entire Qingyun Sect... Thinking of this, the elders felt a wave of helplessness wash over them. At this moment, Han He suddenly spoke. I suspect that the girl from Beihai has a higher probability of having obtained the inheritance. The voice from before belonged to a woman. Surely you cannot determine the gender of someone merely by the sound of their voice, brother? These words left Shi Jing somewhat amused, as it was entirely possible that both had received the inheritance. As soon as the words were spoken, you and Beihai were lifted by a radiant glow and returned to Wangyu Cliff. Everyone witnessed your refreshing and satisfied smile. Beihai's exquisite features appeared even more divine than before. For a moment, they truly could not distinguish whose hands the serendipitous opportunity had fallen into. Xiang Yu darted in front of you, scrutinizing you from head to toe. She even sniffed the air around you. Good disciple, where is the inheritance? It is not with me. Then why on earth are you smiling like that? Seeing everyone turn their attention toward her, Beihai finally nodded slightly. This disciple has indeed obtained an inheritance from a truly ancient era. As soon as these words were uttered, the elders could hardly contain their emotion and excitement, gazing upon Beihai as if she were a precious treasure. Yet Beihai looked towards you at her side. She had expected you to feel a sense of loss. Instead, she saw you smiling even more joyfully. As it turned out, you had just received the investment feedback from the system. Congratulations to the host for successfully investing in Beihai. You have bestowed upon her a significant inheritance in her life. Will you claim the reward now? Therefore, even though the ice beauty was being treated like the moon surrounded by stars, you felt not a shred of envy. If it were not for the inconvenient timing, you would not have been able to resist claiming the reward immediately. At this juncture, the sect master Shangguan Wenshang finally spoke. Very well. Beihai's fortune is her own to hold. No one is to press her for details. Effective today, Wangyu Cliff is strictly off limits. The following day, you had just finished preparing lunch. Your beautiful master suddenly appeared by the table, reaching out to pick up a piece of mutton and popping it into her mouth. You hurriedly handed her a pair of chopsticks. Master, why are you not attending the meeting with the other elders? Those old men speak nothing but repetitive drivel. I have no interest in listening to them. After speaking, she plucked another piece of mutton and tossed it into her mouth. The sect master also entrusted me with the task. I agreed to it reluctantly. My esteemed master, to think you would actually listen to the orders of the old sect master? He told me to move to Thuthu Pavilion to facilitate your training. If it were not for Xiaobinger being here, I would have no interest in coming. Upon hearing this, you wore a bitter smile. You roughly understood the sect master's intention. Rather than saying she came to instruct you, it would be more accurate to say she came to watch over Beihai. While your master may be unreliable, she is truly unreliable. But her prowess in combat is equally genuine. When provoked, she would even dare to pull out a few handfuls of the sect master's beard. With such a ruthless figure guarding the grounds, the security rating of Thuthu Pavilion has soared in an instant. After finishing the meal, Shang Wu lowered her voice and asked, "What kind of legacy did you receive today, little girl?" Beihai set down her bowl and chopsticks, raising her head. Towards this generous elder of Kunyu Peak, she had shed much of her usual indifference. As she channeled her life force, a layer of radiant mist began to envelop her. Shang Wu's eyes revealed a look of astonishment, and she casually tossed a wine cup toward her. The cup was caught by a surge of soft internal energy, fixed upon the radiant mist, slowly spinning in place. The wine within it condensed into a sphere of liquid, rotating around her body. Seeing this, Shang Wu nodded in satisfaction. To be able to project internal energy while still in the blood-refining realm. No, this is even more potent than internal energy. It is merely a minor application of her power. Beihai nodded slightly, and with a sudden eruption of her radiant mist, the wine cup shattered into ceramic shards. Shang Wu immediately clapped her hands. Impressive, truly impressive. Offensively, you can use the mist to inflict invisible damage. Defensively, you can redirect force, using a pittance of effort to deflect 1,000 pounds. However, looking at the ceramic shards on the floor, you felt like crying but had no tears. After all, this was a cup made of Celadon jade, which was of no small value. Suddenly a thought occurred to you, and you asked, "Iceberg, how much water can you control?" Before the words had fully left your lips, Beihai walked to the water basin and manifested her radiant mist. You watched as the water transformed into a serpent, coiling gracefully around her. Your eyes lit up and you immediately placed your dinner bowl into the mist-covered stream, letting it spin wildly within the swirling water. Not bad at all, it cleans it quite thoroughly. Observing your look of wonder and genuine admiration, the slight furrow in Beihai's brows relaxed, for she found that this feeling was not entirely unpleasant. A faint sense of accomplishment stirred within his heart. That being said, may I add 2 more bowls? By all means. Watching the 3 bowls swirling in the current, the protagonist shouted, "That is truly magnificent." Shang Yu rested her chin on one hand, observing the two of you perform, a faint smile flickering in her languid eyes. The iceberg, that moniker is rather fitting indeed. That reminds me, it seems something has been forgotten. No matter, it is likely of little consequence. While others flaunt their affection with flowers or flowery declarations of love, the two of you who are putting on a display of washing dishes. Yet, in the eyes of Shang Yu there was a different kind of romance, like the moon rising above the branches. Within the chamber, Beihai inscribed elegant characters upon a bamboo slip. After immersing in the primordial imperial blood pool, his physical body had undergone a rebirth, shedding its former shell. With his body tempering integrated and his sword Dao aptitude barely passable, he would be sufficient if he put forth enough effort. Furthermore, with proper guidance, it was not impossible for him to cultivate a peerless 10,000 sword technique to its pinnacle. Since he possesses the heart of innocence, the cultivation of mental cultivation techniques is of the utmost importance. One must follow a righteous and balanced path to avoid falling into the demonic way. What she wrote was a clear assessment of your current state, as well as a blueprint for your future cultivation. She had already decided to take you out of the eastern wastelands in the future, yet she still could not fathom why you had undergone such a drastic transformation. Perhaps it is because she herself has been reborn. Or perhaps it is because she failed to discover your natural talent in her previous life. But these things no longer matter. Because in this lifetime, she has already seized the inheritance to return to the peak, and in the future, she will surely be able to help you stand among the ranks of true prodigies. Bringing her focus back, she sat upon the bed and drew the curtains. A bone-chilling cold swept forth, and ice crystals slowly spread outward with the bed as the center. On the other side, you were busy checking the system rewards. Investment return 1, the green gold heavenly tome seal. Investment return 2, world seed. Investment return 3, formless glazed mask. Seeing that you had received 3 investment returns at once, you nearly jumped up in excitement. As expected, the moving iceberg is the most reliable pillar of support. Tomorrow I must surely find a way to reward her well. Suppressing these thoughts, you began to examine the first reward with focus. The green gold heavenly tome seal can raise the grade of any divine art or mark. Upon finishing the introduction, you cannot help but draw a sharp breath. Never in 1,000 years did you imagine that even divine grade techniques could be upgraded. In truth, you had only heard legends regarding divine grade techniques. You only knew that the highest martial arts of the Qingyun Sect were merely peerless techniques. Yet those who mastered mid-tier martial arts could already become a Jiman within the Ziyang Prefecture, and those who mastered top-tier martial arts could establish their own sect. Now, provided that your cultivation realm keeps pace, relying solely on the Fire Crane Heavenly Feather Sword technique, you could already be considered a renowned expert within the entire prefecture. As for divine-grade techniques, you had only heard tales from the local storyteller. 100 years ago, a powerhouse in central province known as the martial venerable Tian Xing fled to the eastern desolate region, carrying a divine-grade technique, which subsequently drew countless powerhouses from outside the region to descend. Local sects like the Qingyun Sect did not even possess the qualifications to intervene, and even the formidable Xuantin Guard personally took to the field. In the end, it remained unknown into whose hands the divine-grade technique eventually fell. In your understanding, divine-grade techniques are the absolute pinnacle of the 9 heavens and 10 earths, and anything beyond a divine-grade technique is entirely beyond your imagination. It is a pity that you currently possess not even a single divine-grade technique, so you store the Golden Heaven Book seal away and turn your attention to the next reward. A world seed, a small world currently in its nascent state, existing in a primordial, unopened void, which will mature in accordance with the host's growing strength, possessing the potential to evolve into a true great world in the future. This time you are genuinely shaken. The mere phrase, a true great world, is enough to define its immense value. As you claim this reward, you find yourself standing within a small pure white space, which is clearly your own nascent small world. Suddenly you wave your hand and shout, "Sword, come!" Immediately a divine sword flies from an unknown origin, cleaving open the gates of heaven. Before the words even faded, boundless sword chi swept across the heavens and earth. If one ignores the fact that this heaven and earth is only 10 zhang wide, this strike was actually quite impressive. Satisfied with your indulgence in playing the role of a peerless swordsman, you shake your head with a wry smile. Playing the part of a swordsman is truly intoxicating. It would be wonderful if you could use this move outside as well, but after all, this world is merely playing along with your performance. Gazing at the empty landscape, you suddenly take an interest in decorating your private space. After half an incense stick of time, you have exhausted all your resources. Drawing upon the imagery accumulated from reading novels to renovate this place, the barren ground now features pavilions and towers, all pure and translucent, highlighting a demeanor that is both understated and refined. Inside the pavilion, there were pill furnaces, chessboard tables, and a host of other extraordinary items. You even entertained the thought of creating rare flora and exotic herbs. It is a pity that for now you remain unable to create life itself, though you can certainly bring living beings from the outside world into this space. With your consciousness retreating from the world's seed, you set your sights on the final reward, the faceless glazed mask. Capable of myriad transformations, it can obstruct all manner of scrutiny. You immediately retrieve the glazed metal mask, fasten it on, and gaze into the mirror, only to discover that your entire aura has been fundamentally altered. Moreover, the shape of the mask shifts according to your very intent. A moment later, the faceless glazed mask morphs into a dragon head, then quickly shifts into a comical pig mask. When you open your mouth, your voice unexpectedly transforms into a deep, resonant rumble. Truly, it is a magnificent treasure. Even your voice can be altered at will. Following this, you enter a state of cultivation. Although only a wall separates you, the image of you and Beihai practicing in tandem carries a harmonious aesthetic, as if a devoted couple sharing the path. The next day, just as you and Beihai finish breakfast, an old acquaintance, Elder Han He, arrives to pay a visit. Qingfeng, Beihai, why have you not come to the Divine Weapon Peak today? Shang Wu, lounging in a Grandmaster's chair, asks, why should they go to the Divine Weapon Peak? They are the top 3 winners of the sect trials. You recall then that the top 3 are entitled to choose any weapon they desire. Good disciples, the 2 of you should quickly follow this old man Han. At this moment, Beihai suddenly speaks up. Elder Han He, I have a request. Qingfeng and I wish to postpone our visit to the Divine Wind Cave for a few days. Seeing the perplexed expression on Elder Han He's face, Beihai continues to explain. I believe that both of our sword techniques can be further refined, and by then we might be able to secure even better armaments. That is certainly permissible, but you may delay for at most 3 days. 3 days from now, the Earth Fire season will be at its most ferocious, and the Divine Wind Cave will be closed to all entrants. It turns out Beihai is confident that within 3 days, she can elevate your creation sword technique to a higher level, ensuring it will be far easier to gain the recognition of a renowned weapon. After Elder Han He departs, Beihai turns toward Shangwu. Elder Shangwu, do you have any plans for Qingfeng over the next few days? Aside from cooking, there is nothing of great importance to attend to. Then I hope you do not mind lending him to me for 3 days. I wish to have him follow me and study the sword for these 3 days. After all, Beihai is not your master, and if she wishes to teach you anything, she must still seek permission from this primary spouse. Shang Yu nodded, yet he remained somewhat curious. I naturally trust in your swordsmanship, but what could possibly be learned in a mere 3 days? I have this. Beihai then withdrew 3 azure-colored incense sticks from her sleeve, and Shang Yu's eyes widened immediately. The sect master's Lingxi incense, to think she would be so generous as to grant you even this. One must understand that Lingxi incense is a treasure from the central divine continent. Burning it accelerates one's comprehension of martial arts manifold. However, the Lingxi wood grows slowly, gaining only 1 inch every 300 years, making its yield exceptionally scarce. There cannot be much remaining within the sect at present. For the sect master to bestow 3 sticks upon Beihai at once truly demonstrates the high regard she holds for her. Shang Yu scratched his head, feeling somewhat embarrassed, as he realized that aside from providing you with 2 martial arts manuals, he had done nothing but rely on your hospitality for food and drink. But upon reflection, you are indeed quite fortunate. Back then she had never even had the opportunity to use such a precious item herself, and using it now upon her precious disciple is much the same. As for you, being able to practice swordsmanship alongside an invincible wife is naturally an opportunity one could only dream of. Although you knew you were not naturally gifted in the sword, you were not willing to abandon it entirely, especially since you possessed no other martial arts to practice at the time. Subsequently, Beihai held your hands to guide you through the sword forms, and half an hour later she released your hands, standing silently to the side while clutching a wooden ruler. Continue practicing and do not let your focus wander, is that not correct? Could it be that the technique is wrong? Are you intending to strike my palms with that ruler? 5 minutes later, the spot where you were struck was not your palm, but your backside. You immediately covered your rear in protest, asking, I am already this old, why are you still spanking me? Though the physical damage was negligible, the sense of humiliation was profound. Witnessing this scene, your beautiful master laughed until she rolled on her reclining chair, tears streaming from her eyes. Nevertheless, Beihai remained unmoved, coolly pointing out the flaws in your movements. As for the fact that you had been struck, she did not utter a single word. Fine, brother. Activate martial arts enlightenment for me. As the years of martial arts enlightenment poured in, you took up your sword and began to practice once more. This time, it left Beihai somewhat surprised. She had not expected such rapid progress, but before you had even finished a few strokes, you stopped and asked, can you guide me through that again? Beihai remained silent for a long moment before nodding in agreement, and so she took your hand once more to teach you the sword. This scene repeated itself many times thereafter. It began to stir within her an indescribable and peculiar feeling. It felt as though you were sometimes brilliant, and other times completely dull. When she taught you, you were as foolish as a stubborn mule, often committing the most elementary of mistakes. Yet, if she let you close your eyes and contemplate for a moment, it was as if you had achieved sudden enlightenment. All the flaws and errors would vanish without a trace. In truth, she did not realize that you were simply conserving your martial arts enlightenment. No content to translate. By the night of the third day, your swordsmanship, under her direct guidance, had advanced by a significant margin. However, while Beihai slept that night, she fell into a dream. That night Beihai, who had finally broken through to the 12th meridian, dreamed of when she ruled over the Qingyun Palace. Back when Lin Huangtan was still alive, the righteous and demonic sects of Central Province were locked in fierce conflict, while the imperial court watched like a tiger from the mountain, fanning the flames, hoping only for the sects to suffer mutual destruction. The Qingyun Palace, led by Yi Zhengyi, rarely interfered in worldly affairs, yet it gathered the most talented female cultivators from across the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Because nearly half of the most formidable female cultivators resided there, both sides exhausted their resources trying to win their favor. However, the Great Yu dynasty clearly did not want to see the Qingyun Palace join either side, as that would shatter the existing balance of power. And so, the crown prince, who was acting as regent at the time, prepared an immense dowry, enough to make the greatest powers green with envy, and ascended the palace. Although this was not the first time someone had come to propose marriage to Beihai, it was the grandest in scale. Yet the outcome was no different than the others. Her suitor could not even withstand 3 strikes from Beihai, and he was forced to endure a devastating remark from her. This palace master has no interest in the weak. In truth, she held no interest in imperial hegemony or worldly dominance. She only spoke those words because she was constantly being pestered. Beyond standing at the pinnacle of the martial path, there was nothing else that commanded her attention. But later, the rumors that spread claimed that the master of the Qingyun Palace would only marry a man stronger than herself. This legend persisted even after she ascended to become the Heaven Sovereign Empress, though by then, no one dared to challenge her any longer. Jingmeng Beihai let out a soft sigh. Without reaching the God-observing realm, one is ultimately unable to fully control one's own spirit. Suddenly, the sound of sword dancing drifted in from outside the window. She rested her chin on the window frame to look out, realizing that you were still practicing your swordsmanship. The sword images flickered, at times manifesting as hundreds or thousands, and at other times converging into one. Beihai watched in silence, a faint curve appearing on her lips that she herself did not even notice. I suppose in this regard I can be considered a decent mentor. She had originally thought that your mastery of the fire crane heavenly dance technique was already exceptional, but the reality far exceeded her expectations. Half a month later, when the system lists the geniuses of the Eastern Desolate region, it is quite possible that your name will truly appear in the middle of the rankings. Watching you practice your sword in this manner, the sky gradually began to brighten. A moment later, you sheathed your sword, unable to suppress a surge of excitement, because the fire crane heavenly dance had finally reached the realm of perfection. Although your insights into the martial Tao were still 100 years away from completion, you no longer had to fear acquiring new martial techniques without the capacity to utilize them. On the way to Shenfeng Cave, Beihai reminded you to attempt to claim that Crimson Xiao sword. In truth, you had indeed intended to test the Crimson Xiao sword, not because you held a grudge for being defeated by a blade once before, but because the Crimson Xiao possesses fire-attributed properties, which, when combined with the Fireheart Lotus technique, would increase its power exponentially. Such a boost might not be apparent at the Blood Key realm, but by the time you reach the internal breath realm, it will undoubtedly be formidable. By now, quite a few people had already gathered in front of Shenfeng Cave. Seeing Beihai arrive, the murmurs in the courtyard quieted significantly, and gazes of awe and reverence turned toward her. This was the invisible pressure radiating from the iceberg. After all, she was not merely a direct disciple of the sect leader, but the future of the entire sect. At this moment, Murong Xiao and Xiao Qin moved through the crowd to greet you enthusiastically, as you were, after all, their great benefactor. The two of them spoke of their recent developments. Murong Shui had achieved initial success in her body refinement, and had begun learning the weapon forging techniques of Shenbing Peak, while old Xiao had not only returned to the inner sect, but had even caught the eye of an elder, with the possibility of being taken on as a direct disciple in the future. Everyone was moving toward a bright future. Witnessing those you had once invested in rising through the ranks, a profound sense of accomplishment blossomed in your heart. Before long, you all entered Shenfeng Cave one after another. However, Beihai came to a sudden halt once she reached the middle of the first level. One could only watch as she gently raised her slender, fair hand. Instantly, over a dozen famous grade longswords flew through the air. They all hovered before her, awaiting her selection. Seeing this, you remained as calm as ever, though it felt akin to a cat magnet entering a cat cafe. The others, however, could not maintain their composure. Cries of astonishment erupted everywhere. Good heavens, it is one thing to be recognized by a famous weapon, but for them all to emerge from the third level at her beck and call? Is it not said that famous weapons with a spirit are inherently arrogant? Why have so many gathered here today? Beihai's true legacy is truly formidable, but wait, look at that. Following the disciple's finger, everyone saw two ribbons of silk, one azure and one white, darting toward her. Along the way, the other famous swords parted to make way. They were undoubtedly the legendary mysterious weapons, Qixiao and Tianxuan. The crowd found their breath hitching in their throats. This was a scene they would not even dare to conjure in their dreams. After all, regarding these two divine weapons of the sword peak, the mysterious longswords forged by the founding patriarch had only been known by reputation. Most had never even laid eyes upon them. Yet Beihai merely extended her hand, and the Tianxuan sword fell into her grasp. The blade even emitted a faint melodic hum, seemingly expressing profound joy. Afterward, she did not spare the other swords a glance, simply walking away with the weapon in hand. As she brushed past you, she offered an encouraging look. You felt a sense of helplessness, truly impressive. She is worthy of becoming a future empress. She concluded this task far too quickly. Just as you prepared to display your own skills to make an impression, the Qixiao sword vanished. It seems I must still tread the conventional path to undergo the trial of the Qixiao sword. Hearing this, Elder Xiao and Elder Mu both offered you words of encouragement once more. You chuckled and continued your advance, yet a sense of doubt inevitably surfaced within your heart. That hammer seems to be calling out to me again. If I am permitted only one weapon, should I choose the hammer or the sword? You pondered this question for 3 1/3 seconds before deciding on the hammer. Are you joking? That is the Of course, you wish to claim it. Elder Han is unlikely to agree, for that hammer is the mountain guarding treasure of Shenbing Peak. While lost in thought, the three of you have arrived at the third level of the Shenfeng Cave. Murong Xiao immediately stopped, and drawing upon his knowledge as a blacksmith, began to identify a weapon suited to his needs. Under the guidance of the old entity residing within his soul, Xiao Qin also began his selection. You, however, continued deeper into the fourth level. Seeing the Qixiao sword silently embedded in the stone steel, you offered a solemn bow. Much like the last time, the Qixiao sword trembled faintly, though the frequency of the vibration was far less intense than when it flew to the side of Beihai. It seemed as though it felt you were not quite to its liking. A spark of competitive spirit instantly ignited within your eyes. 30 years of prosperity in the east, 30 years of adversity in the west. Today I am determined to subdue this blade. It must be said that Qixiao is a sword with double standards. Toward the iceberg, it offers itself willingly, yet for you, it presents the trial of withstanding 10 of its strikes. Endure them, and you may become its master. Fail, and you shall have to seek your fortunes elsewhere. Just then, a familiar swordsman's silhouette appeared before you, and the atmosphere suddenly grew murderous. The swordsman bowed to you slowly with cupped hands, and you, gripping your steel sword, returned the gesture. Immediately thereafter, the two figures collided. The sound of clashing metal echoed throughout the entire fourth level. At that same moment, every famed sword on the third level trembled in unison. Lao Xiao and Lao Mu of course knew that you were the cause of this disturbance. Yet the sound of that sword cry left them both with a chill running down their spines. At this moment, with the assistance of the Tianxing Shal Venerable, Lao Xiao had gained the recognition of a battered greatsword. Although its appearance was unremarkable and it was broken in half, its material quality far exceeded that of the other famed weapons. It possessed only a weak spirit, requiring him to nurture it personally in the future, yet Lao Xiao remained highly satisfied. An hour later, the 10th sword cry of Qixiao resonated through the Shenfeng Cave. Outside the cave, Elder Han he stroked his beard and spoke, his expression revealing a hint of bewilderment. The Qixiao sword has finally acknowledged a master, yet why does it carry such a sense of reluctance? It is as if it is dissatisfied with Qingfeng's talent, holding him in mild contempt, yet forcing itself to accept him as its master. This matter left even Elder Han feeling quite perplexed. Shang Yu, standing nearby, remained indifferent to such concerns, laughing coldly with unconcealed triumph. Haha, old man, both profound artifacts have now fallen into my hands. Shenchang belongs to Beihai. What business is it of yours? Shang Yu could not be bothered to explain, merely casting a gaze upon him that held a touch of pity and sympathy. This caused the veins on old man Han's forehead to throb. That look of yours is quite disrespectful. Very well, enough idle talk. We already made our wager back then. Even excluding that girl, Beihai, there are still 2 blades. Let us do this. I will not let you suffer a loss. You no longer need to act as my protector during my breakthroughs. Whenever I am in need, I shall come to this Shenfeng cave of yours and take any weapon I please to use. You truly are a female bandit, but taking only one item at a time. At least you have this one redeeming quality, old man. You never renege on a debt. Old man Han was so incensed that the corners of his mouth twitched uncontrollably. Compared to the massive debt he owed Shang Yu, losing this wager meant he could only use his weaponry as collateral. Meanwhile, Beihai stood at the cave entrance with a calm expression, seemingly unsurprised that you were able to subdue Qixiao. One must realize that this was the first time she had ever taken instruction seriously. If you could not even claim a single profound artifact, you would hardly be worthy of being her disciple, given her status as an empress. Several veteran disciples of Shenbing Peak were already whispering amongst themselves, all coincidentally recalling the legends surrounding these 2 swords. Legend has it that the patriarch who forged these twin blades bestowed them upon his 2 disciples. Those 2 were a deeply devoted couple, so much so that they created a combined sword art capable of challenging opponents above their own cultivation realm. In the Donghuang region of that era, they enjoyed an illustrious reputation. Following their passing, Tianyang and Qixiao had never served the same master simultaneously again. That sword art too was left to gather dust, and no one had since witnessed its true brilliance. Yet today, both of these profound artifacts have found their respective masters. Consequently, everyone's gaze shifted toward Beihai. However, her jade-like, aloof countenance betrayed not a single flicker of emotion. The cold-natured lady stood at the cave entrance like a statue of eternal longing, while the proud Qixiao was now held firmly within your grasp. In truth, Qixiao had no desire to choose you. After all, your talent in the path of the sword is quite ordinary. But ironically, at your age, you have refined the supreme sword art to the realm of perfection. It was only because of this that it reluctantly accepted you as its master. Whether it was reluctant or not is of little consequence now. As long as you can wield it, that is all that matters. Running your fingers over the blade, smooth as jade, you grinned. With the sword art mastered and the precious sword in hand, if I am not a true swordsman, then who is? Ha 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 ha. Having said that, you look toward the cave entrance at the end of the 4th floor of the Shenfeng Caverns. The call coming from that direction intensifies, becoming even more insistent. It is clearly the divine artifact, the Jiejun Xingcui. Although a hammer does not entirely suit my personal preferences, it is after all a divine weapon, and it shares a resonance with my extreme weapon body. More importantly, it desires to follow me. Since that is the case, I shall stand on no ceremony. You cast these thoughts aside and step quickly into the cave. Having traveled only 100 paces, your physical body is already nearing its limit, unable to withstand the biting aura of weapon slaughter emanating from the hammer. Even though you have pushed your extreme weapon body to its absolute limit, you are unable to advance any further. Seeing the faint signs of your body beginning to collapse under the pressure, you hurriedly retreat back to the cave entrance. Very well, it seems pure effort alone is insufficient to claim this divine weapon. In that case, let us begin with 20 years. At your mental command, 20 years of martial insight instantly flood into your extreme weapon body. Half an incense stick's time later, your extreme weapon body has ascended from the great success stage to the transformation stage. You raise an eyebrow, feeling slightly surprised. You did not expect it to consume so little insight. Having been accustomed to the rigors of sword cultivation, this sudden ease leaves you momentarily unadjusted. You let out a soft shout, transforming your body into a weapon. Soon your own form begins to exude a sharp martial aura, the very same used to temper your physique previously. Consequently, the sensation of oppressive pressure diminishes significantly, to the point where you could withstand as much as you desired. In the blink of an eye, you stand at the boundary of ice and fire, and only now do you have the time to observe this divine weapon closely. The hammer appears as if the head and handle were forged as one by the heavens themselves. The front of the hammer head is square, while the rear is pointed. The square face resembles a great seal, simple yet exquisite. The pointed face resembles a jagged rock in a gale, sculpted by ghosts and chiseled by gods. One face is... You suppressed the dangerous thoughts in your mind and reached out, gently gripping the handle of the hammer. I do not know why you summoned me, but since you have chosen me, today I shall take you away. Before the words had even faded, your mind was thrown into chaos as if the world were being created anew. A blinding shock overwhelmed you, and your hand nearly lost its grip from the sheer force. Yet you could not let go at such a critical moment. You could only grit your teeth and endure. The 13 meridians you had unblocked were now fully mobilized, squeezing every last ounce of strength from your physical body. In truth, the Banki Xuantin Shui had already been quite cooperative with you. Otherwise, as a mere cultivator in the Blood Qi realm, how could you possibly hope to wield a heaven-defying divine weapon of this caliber? At this very moment, the Shenfeng cave began to tremble violently, and the entire divine weapon peak was gripped by incessant tremors. Fortunately, most people had already finished selecting their weapons and had departed, but as they witnessed the powerful, oppressive aura pouring forth from the Shenfeng cave, the expression of the old man Han He shifted constantly. When this ancestral artifact had shown signs of agitation previously, he had vaguely suspected it was connected to you. But what he had not anticipated was that the fluctuations of the Banqi Xuantin Shui would be this intense. A thought nearly absurd emerged in his mind. Could it be that the weapon was about to acknowledge a master? Xiang Yu, standing nearby, seemed to see right through his thoughts. Listen here, old man Han. You must keep your word from earlier. If he truly manages to lift it, what is the harm in letting him take it? Finishing her sentence, she flicked her sleeves and strode into the cave with a huff. Meanwhile, although you had exhausted every fiber of your being to shift the Banqi Xuantin Shui, you had only managed to budge it slightly. Even this was only possible because the Banqi Xuantin Shui had humbled itself and cooperated to the utmost degree. Realizing that the divine weapon was merely using your strength to move itself by that tiny margin, you had no choice but to relax your grip. This mace did not appear large, yet its weight was truly terrifying. However, it mattered not, for you still possessed your hidden trump card. Instantly, you channeled the power of the world seed into your body, and immediately you were flooded with a boundless, heaven-shaking strength. You even felt a fleeting illusory sensation. If Divine Weapon Peak had a handle for you to grab, you could hoist the entire mountain into the air. With a thunderous roar, you shouted, "Rise!" The very moment the mace was lifted from the ground. You swiftly stored it into your small world, and collapsed to the ground, utterly spent, before your head lolled to the side and you fell into unconsciousness. Fortunately, a divine artifact does not count as a living being. Otherwise, you would have had no way to store it within your minor world. When you opened your eyes once more, Old Man Han's aged face was pressed directly against yours. Speak quickly. Where is the hammer? Where is the ancestor's hammer? Xiang Yu, sitting by the bedside, suddenly let out a cold snort and commanded, "Keep your voice down. Do you not see that my disciple is currently very weak?" This remark caused Han He to curse silently in his heart. What is the meaning of this? You have lost the guardian treasure of my divine armament peak. Does this old man still have to serve you with a smile? However, he knew that the more impatient one becomes, the more easily things fall apart. He was forced to restrain himself and ask again in a gentle tone, "Disciple Lin, when you descended to the bottom of the divine wind cavern, you see a hammer? Where did the hammer go?" "It vanished, lost. How could it possibly be lost?" "I was curious, so I reached out to touch it, and it suddenly disappeared. It seems that I have inadvertently stored it within my spatial artifact." You deliberately omitted certain details of the process, substituting your minor world with the term spatial artifact. After all, this world possesses items such as storage bags, collectively referred to as spatial artifacts. For instance, the wine gourd belonging to your beautiful master is one such item. Of course, this item is not the cheap common commodity often found in novels. A spatial artifact involves the most profound principles of the Tao of space. To forge space out of rare and exotic materials, one must be a peerless expert who has mastered this path. Therefore, such artifacts are extremely rare. Apart from the Shangyu family, none of the peak elders possess such high-tier items, and only the sect master possesses one. Hearing this, Shangyu's eyes lit up immediately. The inheritance you received is truly remarkable. Although Old Man Han was shocked, his suspicions did not diminish. If anything, they intensified. This is because no matter how powerful a spatial artifact may be, it cannot store an object that its master is unable to lift. Xiangyu, conversely, stepped forward to assist you, suggesting that the hammer must have acknowledged you as its master. A divine artifact can often be as light as a feather to its true master, yet weigh 1,000 caddies to anyone else, is that not so? It sounded perfectly reasonable, but you knew full well that the Panji Shungxing hammer possessed no such property. Turning your head, you saw your beautiful master giving you a subtle wink. You understood her intent immediately, and nodded. Reporting to Elder Han at that moment, this disciple truly did not feel much weight. But as for retrieving it now, when I retracted it, my spirit suffered a violent shock. I nearly lost consciousness. I fear that in the short term, I lack the capability to draw it forth again. Therefore, my disciple must be allowed to rest properly. If his spirit has been damaged, oh dear, who knows if he will ever be able to retrieve it for the rest of his life. Watching the two of you play along, Elder Han knew that the mace had most likely been taken by you. Although their founder left no records regarding this, there was indeed some truth to Shang Wu's words. After a moment of contemplation, Elder Han spoke up again. If that is the case, before Lin, the direct disciple, can retrieve the divine weapon, he shall remain here at Divine Weapon Peak, staying under the care of an old man like you. What? Are you trying to steal my disciple? Who would covet your disciple? This old man merely wishes to preserve the divine weapon of our ancestors. This time Elder Han was unusually firm, as even if this matter were brought before the sect master, he would be well within his rights. Yet Shang Wu's concerns were also perfectly reasonable, because if one were to obtain the recognition of the Xingxing mace as its master, and that person were a disciple of Divine Weapon Peak, they would undoubtedly become the next elder of this peak. You also vaguely sensed the underlying implications. Is this old man trying to keep you here to forge iron? That simply will not do. If you stay, how will you be able to embrace the jade thighs of the iceberg in the future? As you were pondering this, you heard Elder Han drop a heavy offer. Allow the direct disciple Lin to remain here. All future expenses for a master such as yourself will be covered by Divine Weapon Peak. Clearly, the old man was prepared to spend a small fortune. Looking back at your beautiful master, her eyes were already shining bright. You immediately put on a face of unwavering integrity. Elder, What are you saying? My master has a noble character. How could she possibly abandon her disciple for a mere pittance of silver? Isn't that right, master? You called out to your master, but the beautiful woman seemed not to hear a word you said. As she appeared to be busy calculating with an endless supply of gourmet delicacies, you seriously suspect that she can no longer even hear the clinking of silver coins falling. It seems you still underestimated your master's poverty and her inherent greed for worldly goods. Leaning close to her ear, you whispered, Master, if I remain at Shenbing Peak, there will be no one left to cook for you in the future. Fine food and exquisite wine will be a thing of the past as well. Although your beautiful master is fiercely protective of her disciples, she is not immune to her own avarice. Upon hearing that she would no longer be able to enjoy the meals you prepare, those beautiful, seemingly innocent eyes instantly sharpened with clarity. I am not that kind of person, you said, immediately exhaling in relief before cupping your hands toward Old Man Han. Elder Han, you worry too much. As a disciple, I possess at least a small fortune. Just how much do you have? Before your words had even faded, a crisp sound echoed, and 2 blocks of gleaming silver metal appeared in your palms. Seeing this, Han He's eyes bulged in astonishment. This is refined iron. One must know that it takes 10,000 caddies of iron to forge a single tael of this essence. Ordinary weapons, with just a fraction of this added, could slice through hair and cut through iron as if it were mud. Before the old man could recover his senses, a fist-sized block of glowing red metal appeared in your other hand. This time, Old Man Han could no longer maintain his composure, for this was the exceedingly rare flame rock copper ore. Even the Chixiao sword contains materials of this caliber. You wretched brat, he exclaimed. You call this merely a small fortune? Old Man Han could not help but begin to contemplate the origins of the inheritance you had received. Xiang Yu was pondering the same question. Could the master who left behind this legacy have been a merchant guild leader? Or perhaps a notorious bandit of the Great Tao? Seeing both of them struck speechless by your display, you immediately put on a mask of generosity. Elder Han, you are a master of great renown. Only you possess the skill to allow these materials to reach their full potential. Hearing this, the old man nodded in satisfaction and insisted on 3 binding conditions before letting you depart. The first was that if Shenbing Peak ever required the use of the spirit-forging hammer, you, as the weapons master, must provide your assistance. Second, while your strength remains insufficient, you must not boast about the divine weapon. Third, you must never allow this divine weapon to be stained by the blood of the innocent. You agreed without a moment's hesitation. Even if Elder Han had not insisted, you would have done so regardless. On the way back to the King Shui Pavilion, your beautiful master stood with one hand on her hip, while the other draped over your shoulder, laughing without any regard for her dignified image. Haha, my good disciple, you are quite clever, aren't you? To be able to make that old man Han spin in circles like that, you have already mastered 6 or 7 parts of my own technique. It hardly counts as deception. Let me see that dagger, my disciple. You replied that you truly could not bring it out, as she had not yet fully recovered. If I were to invoke the power of the insect world again, I fear you would witness this great beauty collapsing right on the spot. Seeing Shang Yu's face darken, you quickly changed the subject. Master, were you truly intending to sell me out back there? Ha ha ha, how could that be? That was merely a test from your master. A test, indeed. Master, your conscience is guilty. You rebellious disciple, how dare you question your own master? You wish to upend the moral order? Even as she spoke, Shang Yu's pace noticeably quickened. You watched her retreating figure and chuckled. Master, how about we have some aged Zuqing wine with a whole roasted lamb tonight? As soon as those words left your lips, Shang Yu immediately came to a halt. How many years has it been aged? 30 years. A short while later, as you and your master returned to the courtyard, you saw Beihai sitting at a stone table, leisurely sipping tea. I thought you had returned to your room to practice. Have you not eaten dinner yet? What a coincidence. I haven't eaten either. I shall head to the kitchen to prepare a meal for everyone immediately. Watching you walk into the kitchen, Beihai suddenly asked, Elder Shang Yu, what exactly happened at the Shenfeng cave today? However, Shang Yu offered no response. When Beihai turned to look, the beautiful master had already fallen asleep on the recliner, even snoring quite rhythmically. In truth, even if Shang Yu had not spoken, she could have guessed 7 or 8 parts of it, though the outcome was entirely beyond expectations. She knew of the divine weapon in the Shenfeng cave only because of Shang Yu. During the collapse of the Qingyun Sect, it was Shang Yu who paid a tremendous price to secure that tribulation-burning star mace. Later, when she traveled to the central divine continent, she had seen several divine weapons that were no less impressive than this mace. Yet in the end, none of them could compare. None brought her the same sense of boundless power. Except perhaps for those Taoist weapons born from the creation of heaven and earth, which transcend the rank of divine weapons, such as the seal of rivers and mountains, held by the successive emperors of the Great History Dynasty. She merely recalled that in her past life, the Zhengxing Shui had no master. In those years, Shang Wu could barely manage to activate it once. Thereafter, both vanished without a trace. At that moment, Beihai broke free from her train of thought. You walked out carrying the prepared lamb meat. You placed it on the rack and began to light the fire. Watching you perform with the skill of a professional chef, the iceberg of a woman was momentarily stunned. Could that divine weapon truly be related to him? At that moment, the lingering soul of the Jusou Yuanhuang seemed to regard him with a different gaze. Come here and lend a hand, you said, placing a brush into her hand, breaking her train of thought. Before she could even react, you brought a clay jar filled with sauce and set it before her. This is a custom-made soul condiment I created. Even Yang would be silenced by its flavor. It is yours to use. You spoke while slowly rotating the grill. Thus this heavenly empress took it, dipped the brush into what you called the soul condiment, and began to cook for the first time in her life. Then you decisively handed the task of rotating the grill rack over to her. Before long, the lamb meat sizzled as the fat rendered. Watching the serious expression on Beihai's face as she brushed on the sauce, you nodded with satisfaction. When this iceberg adds a touch of the mortal world to her cooking, she does not seem quite as cold as before. Perhaps one day you might even have this iceberg feed you herself. Very quickly, however, you abandoned that thought, for half the lamb was scorched black, while the other half remained raw. Yet the Empress continued to rotate the meat, seemingly unaware that anything was amiss. You were left between laughter and tears saying, "Big sister, it's already burnt." She continued to grill the charred meat with enthusiasm. Sensing your gaze, Beihai looked up, revealing a look of confusion.
Is there a problem?
Nothing at all, you must be tired. Let me finish this. By the time the roasted lamb was complete, everyone departed, returning to their respective dwellings. You remained in your room to inventory the rewards from the investment returns. Your beautiful master had brought back 500 taels of gold for you. Yet the returns from the iceberg were even more lucrative. 8 pieces of mysterious crystals, various high-grade medicinal elixirs, rare minerals, and exotic herbs were all present. After organizing the rewards, you entered the insect world. Compared to before, the area seemed to have expanded slightly. The Banki Yintian mace hung silently, suspended above the empty space by the chessboard. The demon Xixiao sword, usually haughty and unyielding, remained tucked away in a corner, daring not to approach. Sensing your arrival, the mace vibrated gently twice. Although its weapon-slaying aura and sharp edge remained, it could no longer exert any pressure upon you. For you are, after all, the master of this realm. You silently recited a command of immense strength in your heart, then stepped forward and gripped the mace, easily lifting it as expected, feeling not even a hint of its weight. If not for the sense of joy radiating from the Banki Yintian mace, one might have mistaken this divine weapon for a mere imitation. You swung it gently twice, and the violent, sharp aura of the weapon surged outward, instantly causing the small world's atmosphere to shift, as if the heavens themselves were raging. Following this, you struck down with the mace, creating a disturbance akin to a falling meteorite, carrying immeasurable power. You felt like an invincible sovereign of the 9 heavens. At this moment, the Banki Yintian mace buzzed incessantly, growing increasingly excited, as if it had not been wielded to its full potential for a long time. Faintly, you heard a voice echo, "I want to go out," but that was impossible. Was this sound originating from the mace? Immediately you lowered your head to confirm the source, finally understanding the intent of this divine armament. It seems you wish to crush something. In truth, I share that sentiment. Regrettably, my current cultivation does not yet permit it. Upon hearing this, the Banki Yintian mace felt somewhat aggrieved. Its fragile consciousness was not yet capable of grasping such complex matters. Why did this master, who could clearly unleash its power with such purity, refuse to take it out into the world? You gently patted the head of the mace to console it. When the time is ripe, I shall certainly allow you to shine with brilliant radiance. The mace emitted a soft hum in response. You pondered seriously. Now that you possess a divine mace, should you seek out a manual for mace techniques? For a swordsman like you to possess knowledge of mace techniques, it would surely seem reasonable to everyone. However, among the investment returns you have received, there is truly no martial art related to mace techniques. A sudden inspiration flashes in your mind as you recall that you achieved first place in the trial, earning the right to ascend to the 5th floor of the library to select a martial art. Thus, you depart from the insect world with Shi Tiyua and head straight for the library, reaching the 5th floor without anyone blocking your path. You proceed immediately to the section housing techniques for weapons. But after searching high and low, you find only mace techniques intended for forging or martial arts suited only for heavy maces, leaving you to exhale a helpless sigh. It is only natural. In the pugilistic world, one hears of sword gods, blade sects, spear immortals, but one never hears of anyone bearing a title associated with the mace. Mace techniques are already obscure enough, and the Panjie Banjing Shui is a short mace technique at that. It is truly the most obscure among the obscure. No sooner had you muttered this than the voice of Murong Xiao reached you from behind. "Brother Lin, what a coincidence. Brother Murong, are you here to select a martial art as well?" Hearing this, Murong Xiao gives a bitter laugh. "Brother Lin, you have misunderstood. I have not yet informed my master." This response leaves you feeling somewhat suspicious. But as you activate the heavenly mandate divine eye, you immediately grasp the truth. Name Murong Xiao, age 16. Aptitude: Mingjiao body realm, 7th meridian of the Bloodchi realm, fate assessment, blue mixed with gray. Background: father is a human, mother is a shapeshifter. Temperament: kind-hearted but suffering. Due to the influence of his bloodline, should he harmonize the benefits of both, his future will be boundless. But should he succumb to the drawbacks, he will become a source of calamity. Recently, affected by his bloodline, he has been plagued by distracting tasks and unending nightmares. Dreaming of his own hands stained with blood, he sought a mental cultivation manual that could soothe the spirit and calm the heart. I have already brought glory to the divine weapon peak. Why would they begrudge a single cultivation manual for a direct disciple? It turns out the root of the problem lies with Murong Xiao himself. While you are deep in thought, Murong Xiao confesses the truth. Brother Lin, I will not hide it from you. My master does not yet know that my half-demon bloodline originates from the Ming Jiao, which is why I came to the library in secret. Indeed, I do not wish to deceive my master, but I dare not tell the truth either, so I had to sneak here, hoping to find a mental cultivation manual to suppress the negative effects of the Ming Jiao bloodline. You shake your head helplessly. This child, Murong Xiao, is far too honest. In truth, the old man Han He seems quite reasonable in your eyes. As long as one fabricates a story with a straight face, isn't requesting a cultivation manual a simple matter? If it were you, you could easily obtain a superior grade cultivation manual. Withdrawing from your thoughts, you say solemnly, a cultivation manual can surely be found, but do not expect a middle grade manual to be enough to suppress your bloodline. Then what should I do? After you spoke, you placed a book into his hands. This is the Golden Bell Claw, a superior body tempering martial art. Seeing Murong Xiao's bewildered expression, you patiently explained, calming the mind and spirit does not necessarily require a meditation manual. This superior martial art originates from the Buddhist sect. It contains the profound truths of the Buddha, serving as a method to cultivate both the body and the heart. If you master the Golden Bell Claw, what need have you to fear the entanglement of distracting thoughts? As soon as these words were spoken, Murong Xiao's previously gloomy expression brightened, and he bowed to you with intense agitation. Brother Lin, I owe you another great debt of gratitude. Looking at him now, it seemed that aside from bearing your children, he would not even furrow his brow at any request you made. Once old Mu departed in high spirits, the system's notification arrived right on cue. Congratulations to the host, a successful investment of a superior martial art manual in Murong Xiao, helping him overcome his bloodline predicament. Investment return, 1 ancient bronze heaven scroll seal. The ancient bronze heaven scroll seal can be imprinted upon any martial art, enabling it to undergo deduction and perfection, thereby elevating the grade of the martial art, with the potential to raise a technique to the rank of supreme art. Looking at the introduction on the interface, you were overwhelmed with joy. Because not only could a superior martial art be transformed into a supreme art, but you could also select the specific type of supreme art it would become. Murong Xiao had provided a truly lucrative return this time. Afterward, you continued your search on the 5th floor. Half an hour later, you finally discovered the 12 hammers of settling the storm. This hammer technique was not only a superior martial art, but it also utilized short-handled hammers. It was as if it had been custom-made for you. You immediately clutched it in excitement, your hands trembling as you flipped through the pages, but upon reaching the 8th stance, the content ended, leaving you instantly speechless. After weighing your options, you decided to take this hammer technique with you, as you currently had no other choices. When the library deacon took the manual from you, he began to record it with his brush, but upon seeing the name of the martial art, he froze. He then looked at the Qingqi Xiao longsword hanging at your waist, and finally spoke up, Junior Brother Lin, this is a hammer technique. Are you certain you have not chosen incorrectly? After all, since you were recognized by Qi Xiao, in their eyes you were a genius of the sword path has chosen a manual for mace techniques, which was entirely beyond their comprehension. You nod your head and offer a faint smile. Senior brother, I have not chosen in error. As the saying goes, stones from other hills may serve to polish the jade of this one. Now that I possess the sword arts, studying other martial techniques may provide further clarity. This martial technique is flawed, and selecting it will consume one of your opportunities. Junior Brother Lin, consider this carefully. Senior brother need not say more, as my decision is made. Very well. Within 1 month, please return the manual. Do not allow it to be spread to outsiders. Just as you stepped out of the scripture pavilion, Beihai, carrying Tiancheng, walked into the main peak's sword training grounds. Sectmaster Shangguan Wenshang and the elders had been waiting for a long time. As it turned out, they also wished to witness Beihai's sword techniques, to see what sort of ability she possessed that made Tiancheng willing to submit and recognize her as its master. When Beihai drew her sword, a surge of sword light suddenly illuminated the entire hall, and the sword chi stirred the pear blossoms surrounding the training grounds, with every petal moving in harmony with the long sword in her hand, at times dispersing, at times gathering. When they dispersed, they were incomparably beautiful yet concealed a lethal killing intent. When they gathered, the cold aura was terrifying and peerless in its dominance. The moment Beihai sheathed her sword, every petal simultaneously shattered into shards of ice. Witnessing this, not one elder could withhold their praise, finally understanding why the Tiancheng sword had been so eager to accept its master. This was no longer something that could be comprehended from superior-grade martial arts. Let alone the Blood Qi realm, even those in the Guanshen realm might not fathom the mysteries hidden within. This meant that Beihai, while in the Blood Qi realm, already possessed a depth of martial accumulation stronger than those in the Guanshen realm. This was the true definition of a genius. The elders were left speechless, unable to find the words to describe what they had seen. At this moment the Sectmaster spoke slowly. Beihai, was it you who provided the guidance for Qingfeng's sword technique? I did, Sectmaster. I see, so that is how it is. In the way of the sword, though this old man prides himself on his extensive knowledge, I fear it would be difficult to find anyone with a sword talent that rivals yours. In truth, there was someone stronger than her. The sword was the weapon she wielded most naturally, yet it was not her greatest strength. Thinking of a true sword cultivation prodigy, a name worthy of that title surfaced in her heart. Suddenly, Elder Xiao asked, Beihai, how many meridians have you opened now? Has there been any change in the chilling essence within your bloodline recently? 1 meridian. The frigid aura remains unchanged. As these words were spoken, the old men all widened their eyes in shock. Before they could recover their senses, Xiao Beihai calmly added another sentence. Approaching 13 meridians, the elders, who had already turned to stone, were nearly shattered by the revelation. Everyone present knew that a martial artist in the blood energy realm could at most open 13 major meridians. If one could open 13 meridians while still in the blood energy realm, it meant that Beihai's true limit far exceeded merely 13 meridians. It was the sect master who regained his composure first, continuing to ask, Beihai, what do you feel is the maximum number of meridians you can open? 24 meridians. Once these words were uttered, the group of old men could not help but gasp in cold air. The geniuses they had encountered in the past were nothing compared to this young girl. At the same time, near a waterfall by Chushui Pavilion, you exhaled a breath of turbid air and ceased your cultivation. Very good, truly excellent. This session of cultivation allowed me to open 2 meridians at once. My body has also completely recovered. You then took the 12 hammers of the wind manual from your chest and applied the heavenly book seal upon it. However, there was no reaction at all. The small characters on the pages showed no sign of flowing inward, which clearly indicated that the heavenly book seal could not perfect incomplete martial arts. I wonder if the incomplete manual can absorb my martial insights? Perhaps I should put it to the test. It must be said that you are truly a talent when it comes to the hammer. By channeling merely 1 year of martial insight, you actually pushed the incomplete hammer technique to reach the great completion stage. This left you questioning existence itself. Why did the sword technique fail? Why did the hammer technique succeed? With a complex state of mind, you poured in another 5 years of insight. Not only did you successfully complete the fractured hammer technique, but you even ascended into the realm of transformation. After a long moment, you let out a heavy sigh. Is it because my natural talent for the hammer was already superior, or has my aptitude been enhanced since becoming the master of the Calamity Star Dagger? Forget it, there is no use dwelling on it. Now, I can finally upgrade it into an ultimate art. You walked toward a flat piece of bluestone, spread out a sheet of paper, and began to write with swift, fluid strokes. Before long, a complete superior-grade martial art appeared upon the paper. Next, he pressed the ancient bronze seal upon it. The minuscule, tadpole-like characters surged forward, rapidly rearranging themselves into a new formation. In the end, even the name of the martial technique transformed into 7 stances of Qingyun. A brand new, peerless martial art had been forged. The 7 stances of Qingyun served as a perfected evolution of the 12 blades of wind settling. By restructuring the entire foundation of the technique, it pushed the concept of deliberation to its absolute limit, prioritizing the philosophy of overcoming speed with slow and defeating brute force with grace. Once mastered to the state of perfection, a strike that appeared effortless would erupt with terrifying, destructive power. Ha ha ha, once that level is reached, cleaving mountains, splitting seas, and severing rivers will be a trivial matter. Martial enlightenment, activate. With 20 years of martial insight pouring into his mind, the 7 stances of Qingyun instantly ascended to the state of perfection. This development was truly beyond your expectations. Could it be that I was born to be a master of the blade? Enough dwelling on it, it is time to return. Just as you stepped into the autumn water pavilion, Beihai happened to return as well. What a coincidence. Actually, I have a favor to ask of you. After speaking, she sat down at the stone table and habitually poured a cup of tea. Though you felt a hint of suspicion, you took a seat across from her. Beihai sipped her tea before continuing, are you intending to accept a sect mission that leads to Xiang Prefecture City? I have not yet accepted a mission, though I do indeed have the intention of seeking one in Xiang Prefecture City. If you have something to say, speak plainly. I need you to find someone for me. She is likely living as a beggar by now. Having said this, she could not help but sink into her memories. It turned out that years ago, when she failed to join the Qingyun Sect, she took shelter in a dilapidated district within Xiang Prefecture City. It was there that she met Zhang Sulong, who was equally destitute and alone. Had it not been for their mutual reliance and support, she would never have been able to open her meridians in her previous life. Now that she had successfully joined the Qingyun Sect, Zhang Sulong was left all by herself. Shaking off her thoughts, she took out a pen and paper to sketch the woman's likeness before handing it to you. I ask that you find her and ensure she is provided for with proper food and shelter. Rest assured, Xiang Prefecture City is vast, but finding one person should not be an impossible task. However, when you looked down at the drawing, you could not help but be caught between laughter and tears. I must ask, does a person truly look like this? Is this not a bit too abstract? It is perfectly fine. Look, the features are quite distinct. She has very large eyes and very small lips. Are there any more intuitive characteristics? Upon hearing this, Beihai fell into deep contemplation before answering, yes. There is a terrifying scar upon her chin. Furthermore, if you were to wash the dirt from your face, you would be quite beautiful. Just how beautiful, you ask? You compare favorably to me, each with your own distinct charm. Finally, from the words of that cold iceberg, you have obtained some concrete information. That afternoon, you sat in a luxurious carriage heading down the mountain, accompanied by Murong Xiao. He had also accepted a sect mission, and since you were traveling the same path, Murong Xiao observed the portrait spread out on the table. The man in the portrait is the notorious bandit Tian Bakuang, whose strength is at the internal breath condensation realm, skilled in hard body cultivation and masterful with the blade, carrying the debt of dozens of lives upon his head, and was severely wounded by an outer sect deacon 10 days ago. Even while wounded, he remains a formidable opponent, but to you he represents a worthy target for a trial by combat. After all, you have yet to truly engage in a life-or-death battle with anyone. At this thought, Murong Xiao could not help but ask, Brother Lin, why did you accept the mission to hunt down such a notorious criminal? I happened to be searching for someone as well, so it was simply convenient. Since Brother Lin has accepted this mission, even if I have to dig 3 feet into the ground of Ziyang Prefecture, I will certainly help you find this man. You chuckled. It seems that since learning the Golden Bell grasps, Old Mu has become quite earnest. Recalling your need to find someone, Old Mu asked again, That's right, Brother Lin. Besides Tian Bakuang, who else are you looking for? It is a young beggar. Hearing your words, Murong Xiao actually picked up a brush and began to record your words with great seriousness. It turns out he intends to go home and ask his grandfather for assistance. After all, the Murong family is quite well connected in matters of intelligence. Before long, you arrived at the Murong estate, and upon entering the main hall, you saw 2 elders sitting and drinking tea. One elder beckoned to Murong Xiao, while the other, dressed in purple robes with hair half black and half white, let his gaze rest upon you, focusing particularly on the long sword at your waist. Immediately afterward, Murong Hai stood up to welcome you. Is this the true inheritor Lin? Truly a talent of exceptional standing. Heroes are indeed found among the young. Just now, I was enjoying tea with the prefecture lord, and upon hearing that the true inheritor Lin was arriving, he stayed behind to finish quite a bit of my Yun Wu tea. It seems this must be the profound weapon Chixiao. The future of the Qingyun Sect will likely see the rise of 2 great sword immortals. This junior pays respects to the Murong clan head and the prefecture lord. You 2 seniors are far too kind. Please take your seats. After some brief exchanges of pleasantries, a banquet was held at the estate to host you. Murong Hai grasped his grandson's hand, quietly sensing his condition. Suddenly, he let out a soft sound of surprise, for this did not seem to be the body-tempering secret art of Shenbing Peak. You have seen through it, elder. This was given to me by Brother Lin. I have yet to even begin my cultivation of it. You observed the apprehension in Murong Xiao's heart. You smiled dismissively, telling him there was no harm in letting his grandfather see it. It was not borrowed from the library, so there was no fear of it being leaked. Only then was Murong Xiao relieved enough to produce the Golden Bell manual. Elder Murong took it and flipped through the pages, his eyes growing brighter with every passing moment. As a warrior of the Guanshen realm, he immediately recognized this as a Buddhist body-tempering secret art. It was capable of more than just tempering the physique. It could discard distracting thoughts and cleanse the spirit. It was as if it had been tailor-made for his grandson. In truth, he had been searching for such a martial art for a long time, only to find no results. This Golden Bell manual was likely an extremely precious treasure, even among the highest tier of martial arts. Thinking of this, he could not help but ask, Young friend Lin, this technique is priceless, yet the law should not be lightly imparted. You understood the hidden meaning behind Murong Hai's words. Because whether it be a great sect or a minor school, they all cherish their own martial arts, strictly forbidding them from being spread to outsiders. Once a stolen martial art is discovered by the original master, it is perfectly reasonable for them to come to your doorstep and beat you to death. At the very least, they would cripple your cultivation. But since this was a gift from the system, you had no such concerns. Thus you calmly replied, Brother Murong and I share a deep friendship. The Golden Bell manual happens to suit him perfectly. I consider this as finding a worthy successor for this martial art. Otherwise, I fear it would be lost to time. Hearing your explanation, the furrow in Elder Murong's brows finally smoothed out. The mansion master, who had been silent until now, suddenly spoke. Lin Xuan, your destiny is immense. Have you perhaps encountered the inheritance of some great master? Perhaps, you replied, though this response seemed to be within his expectations. However, the way he looked at you held a certain profound meaning. It seemed he had concluded that the inheritance responsible for the radiant glow at Qingyun Sect that day did not lie with this young man. Although you are a newcomer to the world, your conduct and maturity are truly profound. Even though you sensed that the mansion master was observing you, you pretended not to notice, and even took the initiative to toast him. Perhaps your enthusiasm made the mansion master feel uneasy. He excused himself and left halfway through the banquet. At this moment, Murong Hai looked at you with a gentle smile, saying, Young Master Lin, since you have arrived, please stay for a few days so we may offer our hospitality. After speaking, he looked toward his grandson. Shower, from now on, you must treat young Master Lin like an elder brother. Is that understood? He did not know which of the 2 of you was older, but that did not matter, for you possessed not only exceptional talent, but also a truly sophisticated manner in handling human relations. You would certainly not remain a mere fish in a pond for long. Provided there were no mishaps, you would surely become a high-ranking member of the Qingyun Sect, and perhaps even the position of sectmaster was within your reach. Even without the matter of the cultivation transfer, it was necessary to foster a strong relationship. Murong Xiao nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. In truth, he would have done so even without his grandfather's reminder. One must remember that you are his great benefactor. Hai was very satisfied with his grandson's attitude. This child was worth teaching. That is right. You must have descended the mountain this time to carry out a sect mission. That is correct, Elder. My junior sister needs to find 10 stalks of blood vitality grass, and Brother Lin wishes to hunt down the criminal Tian Baguang. Hai stroked his beard in thought, quickly recalling that the Tian Baguang you spoke of was once a disciple of the Jinyang Blade sect, but later betrayed his sect to become a wandering bandit. And after sneaking into Xiang Mansion, he had killed several constables, which is why the matter was reported to the Qingyun Sect. I shall send men to inquire about this. If you, Disciple Lin, require any further assistance, do not hesitate to speak. For me, tracking down someone at the internal breath realm, a mere wandering bandit, is no difficult task. You did not stand on ceremony either. This junior does indeed have a request, though it is a personal matter. Speak, do not hesitate. My family has a motto: we must perform acts of charity and accumulate virtue once every year, so I wish to borrow a few men from you to open a charity hall in the city to distribute porridge and rice. This action was naturally to help Bingdazi find the person, since he intended to find the little beggar. When the little beggar arrives, you will manifest the divine eye of heavenly fate. Not only will this allow you to locate him quickly, but it will also secure you a profitable investment. Though the gains may not be monumental, as the saying goes, even a mosquito's leg contains meat, and this gesture of yours will certainly earn the favor of the old man. Young friend Lin, such kindness is truly rare to behold. Bring the wine. I wish to drink heartily with young friend Lin, the old man proclaimed, as the atmosphere of the banquet grew increasingly jovial and fervent. The elder and the youth drank until they lost all sense of time, and after a long while their forms of address shifted to that of sworn brothers. Brother Lin, your tolerance for alcohol is truly impressive. You flatter me, elder brother Murong. Murong Xiao, who had been ignored like air until now, watched the scene in a daze. This did not seem right. If Brother Lin calls grandfather elder brother, then wouldn't I? Murong Xiao sighed, as the banquet slowly drew to a close. The following morning, no sooner had you stepped out of your chambers than you saw the servants of the manor bustling about in a flurry of activity. Old Master Murong was personally overseeing the labor, and upon seeing you, he waved his hand with great enthusiasm. Young friend, you are awake. I have already diverted supplies from our trade guild. This charitable mission will be established in no time. I have troubled you greatly, Patriarch Murong. You spoke while producing prepared banknotes from your sleeve. Since you were abiding by the family teachings of benevolence, you could not simply borrow someone else's flowers to offer to the Buddha. I hope the elder will not refuse. Being able to utilize the reputation and manpower of the Murong clan is already a cause for my gratitude. I am truly grateful. Old Master Murong originally intended to refuse, but seeing the sincerity on your face, he had no choice but to accept. Young friend possesses a heart of gold. It makes this old man truly ashamed. After speaking, he called over a passing steward and ordered him to wake shower, commanding the youth to personally travel throughout the city to spread the news. That day, throughout the main streets and narrow alleys of Yangfu City, Murong Xiao beat his drums, drawing the attention of many. Lin Zhen of the Qingyun Sect has descended the mountain to perform good deeds. All displaced refugees may line up to receive porridge and rice. The designated location was at the Murong Manor, where, at the corner of the wall before a small tavern, a beggar with unkempt, tangled hair watched the retreating figure of Murong Xiao, and beneath his dry, straw-like hair, his eyes glinted with a malevolent light. This person was none other than the notorious bandit of the martial world, Tian Baguang. At this moment, a myriad of questions flooded his mind. Having arrived from Yangfu City disguised as a beggar, it should have been impossible for the members of the Qingyun Sect to recognize him. Yet, the moment the other party arrived, they began distributing porridge as an act of charity. Every indication suggested that they were targeting him specifically. From this, he surmised that you must have been tasked with hunting him down. Thinking of this, the murderous glint in his eyes intensified. Could it be that the Qingyun Sect intends to use me as a whetstone? Are they using me to sharpen the skills of their inner disciples? Are you not afraid that your blade might shatter against me? Tian Baguang held great confidence in his swordsmanship. After all, the technique he cultivated was the blood-slaying blade. Each soul claimed by his blade only served to increase its lethality. Furthermore, he intended to take your head as a token of merit to join the assassin organization, Suiyu Pavilion, while using this opportunity to test your strength. He handed a string of copper coins to the young beggar beside him, instructing him to touch the hem of your garment while collecting the porridge. This was because the coins were coated in a specially crafted incense that only specially trained mice could detect. The young beggar accepted the money and hurried away, joining the long line already formed at the charity station erected before the entrance of the Wrong Mansion. You were as busy as a spinning top, personally distributing rice porridge, while simultaneously observing the crowd with your heavenly mandate divine eye. Some were impostors feigning poverty to receive relief. Others were failed scholars who had come to the capital for the imperial examinations, a true reflection of the various walks of life. Yet, the person you were searching for was nowhere to be found. Could it be that the young beggar was not with the others, or was the information from Bing Dazi flawed? Just as these thoughts crossed your mind, a beggar of about 7 or 8 years old tugged at your sleeve, and you immediately handed him a bag of rice. Can you carry it? I can carry it. Great philanthropist Lin, many thanks to you. That's right. Have you ever seen a beggar with very bright eyes who speaks with a stutter? Is there a wound on your chest? Hearing this, the little beggar instinctively asked, "Do you know the young lady who stutters?" Your eyes lit up and you were just about to press for more information. The little beggar suddenly clamped a hand over its mouth, a look of panic crossing its face as it bolted into the crowd. However, its information remained clearly visible within your heavenly fate divine eye. "I commend your boldness. I had not yet sought you out, you villain, yet you have delivered yourself to my doorstep." At that same moment, the little beggar had already arrived before Tian Baguang. After relaying the information regarding you, Tian Baguang immediately intended to silence the little beggar. The very moment he drew his blood blade, your voice resonated from behind him. "Tian Baguang, you look nothing like your portrait." Startled, Tian Baguang whipped around, fixing a vigilant gaze upon you. "How do you know that? There are still many things in this world that you do not understand." As you spoke, the opponent's information manifested before you. Casting a glance at the system's assessment, you stepped toward the terrified little beggar. You gently patted its head. "Do not be afraid, leave this place at once." The little beggar finally snapped out of its stupor and hurriedly nodded. Upon reaching the end of the alley, it glanced back. Although it did not comprehend what was transpiring, it vaguely understood that the great philanthropist Lin of the Qingyun Sect was a good person, while the individual who paid it to perform the task was a man of evil. In its panic, it snapped a twig, causing the tension within the narrow alley to escalate instantly. "Playing the ghost and pretending to be mysterious, daring to confront me alone? Today shall be your death anniversary." The moment the words left his lips, the blood-red blade in his hand lunged toward your chest. You perceived the sharp, murderous intent whistling from the blade's edge.